everybody, and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you? Night number 2 of this week, and I'll tell you, I am pumped up for Dr. Bruce Solheim to join us tonight. We are going to have a blast talking everything from channeling to paranormal to UFOs, aliens, and you know what, people? You know how I am. You know what I like. He's got a great set of hair on him with a fantastically tight goatee. The look of a professional. The look of a professional. Before we bring Dr. Solheim in, let's bring a rundown to everybody who is here. In the gold medal position, we have the gorgeous Katie. Jack Clark takes home silver. SJ with the bronze. Tiniest Squish, you're looking lovely tonight. Good to see you. Race Fan, no medal position for you tonight. I'm calling bullshit on that one, just like you did in the chat room. Let's see here. The lovely and talented Cosmic Fleur is here. The gorgeous Emily Bigelow, otherwise known as Alaska's greatest athlete, has arrived. Troy Kluche, welcome to our channel for the first time, I believe. How are you? Squirrely Susie, how are you? Nice to have you here. The lovely Jenny Metz has returned. Manuel Silva, how you doing, man? Hey, let me know, Manuel, what year you took Dr. Solheim's classes. We were just talking about that, and I'm curious, if you don't mind. All right, let's see here. Let's see. What does Captain Shirk want here? Of course, it's not going to let me clip on here. Let's see here. All right. We'll get that in, Shirky Poo, I promise. All right, moving on. Typical Watch, good to see you. And Grandmaster, the gorgeous Renee, Major Lee, good to see you guys. Thanks for coming in. Gary Spikes Jr., Joshua S., Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. That's all I got. That's all I got so far. All right. The gorgeous Julie has returned. Thank you for coming on in. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio for Julie. She does not like eye contact, people, so don't make eye contact when you go up to get that autograph. Moving on here, little Deborah has arrived. Moosehead, good to see you. Paul Holland, the gorgeous Wrench Kira is here. Michael Lestuca, how you doing, brother? Ozzy, sister. Gorgeous Jenny, the Wrench, is here. And we have Travis DeLuca. Cedric, good to see you. Abe and Nuck Levy, welcome. Ozzy, oi to you. Dan W., good to have you here, my friend. And Stephen Edmond, Big Pickle, nice to have you guys here. Troy SR71 and Devin, good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Mama Susan and the lovely and talented pride of Brandon, Manitoba. It is Manitoba Becky, everyone. Yes, she is a wheat queen. The lovely Jessica McCreary is here. She'll be giving hair tips after the show. When you go to sign up for her autographs, line up to the right of the studio for Jessica. So we got Julie on the left. We got Jessica on the right. And let's see if we can find somebody down the middle here. We got Greg Moyes. Greg Moyes is going to be signing autographs down the middle tonight. Make room for him as well. Chillin' Villain, good to see you. Millennium. And Sean, thanks for coming on in. Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. If you're in Austin, Texas, and you find Uncle Dale, if you rub his mustache, you will get 7 days of freedom from your job. You got to find Uncle Dale and his Power Stash, though. Richard Elmore, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Jay Breezy and Madison, good to have you here. Denise, love that you're here. Thank you for joining us. And let's see, who am I missing here? The lovely Lauren has returned. Hey, Terrence. Hello, Terrence on Twitter. Good to see you, buddy. And hope you're doing well. I heard a rumor that you're quitting our former hockey league. Let me know about that. Steve Stockton, good to have you from KPNL, 416 Bitcoin. And Guillermo, how are you guys? Good to see you guys. Thank you for coming on in. And we're about a minute away. The lovely Yola Tango has returned. The Ronald Penton is here, everyone. The Ronald Penton. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. The lovely Lori Oliphant has returned. Hey, there's Super Lou. Super Lou. You need a cape, man. Super Lou. You need a cape. I want to see a cape on your podcast next time. Never mind the Men in Black tie that you were wearing earlier today, man. You need a cape. You're the type of guy who can pull it off, dude. I want to see that shit. I totally want to see that, man. There's little Marky Spender, everyone. That's my best friend who says that if we're getting chased by a grizzly bear, he has no trouble shooting me in the leg so he can get away. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for sacrificing me for your health. And say hi to Baxter for me. Give him a little pet on the head for me. We are about 10 seconds away. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is our guest. And a great way to support this show is hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new. The super chat is open. Let's go. Let's do it right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is here tonight. He is currently a distinguished professor of history at Citrus College in Glendora, California. He has also served as a Fulbright Professor in 2003 at the University of Tromsø in northern Norway. He teaches a paranormal personal history course at Citrus College. Dr. Solheim is an associate member of the Parapsychological Association and a member of CERO and MUFON. He founded the Veterans Program at Citrus College and co-founded with Manuel Martinez and Ginger de Villarose the Boots to Books Transition Course, the first college course in the United States designed specifically for recently returned veterans. That's a great cause. Because we love our veterans around here. I'm just sold on this guy because of this. I really am. And what a way to do it. Dr. Bruce Solheim, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thank you for having me. And what a wonderful group you have there. All the shout outs. I love that.
Well, we try and make sure that everybody is comfortable when they come on in, and our listeners on YouTube and Twitch will be able to see that I wasn't lying during the intro. You have fantastic hair and nice tight goatee. We like that around here. We really do.
Thank you very much.
I want to ask you, a person of education of your sorts, you're a little bit of an anomaly going into ghosts, UFOs, channeling. I got to ask you, how did you go from being Dr. Bruce Solheim, the historian, to the weirdo parapsychological person?
Well, the truth is, I was the weirdo parapsychological person, and I was just pretending to be this academic type guy. So that's really my disguise, and my true identity is what we got here tonight, Dave. I've had a paranormal life since age 4.
Oh, so, you got to fill me in on that. You have to.
Yeah, I just my first paranormal experience was in northern Norway, and it was an angelic healing experience. And I was very, very sick. I think they thought I was going to die on this remote island in northern Norway, 200 miles above the Arctic Circle. And I survived, but I saw this bright light in the ceiling of my grandmother's kitchen, in this old farmhouse, and I told my mom and grandmother about it, and they said it was a miracle that I was healed, and they told me that it was my guardian angel. And from that point on, I've had a paranormal life. I've seen lots of ghosts. I've had telepathy and telekinesis and mediumship. I hear dead people and see dead people. So
isn't that fun?
It's just been, it's been a riot, and alien contact too. So just, you name it, cryptid stuff, everything. And some scary, nasty, demonic stuff too. When I didn't know what I was doing, got subjected to that too. So a little bit of everything, and learned a lot of lessons. And yeah, so so that's really my true nature. But I had to keep it hidden because in the military, you can't really talk about this stuff. And I was in the military for 6 years. In academe, you can't really do it. Talk to other professors about how you talk to ghosts and stuff like that. And in the corporate world, I worked for 5 years as a defense contractor for Boeing, and you can't really talk about that stuff there either. So everywhere I was, I just had to pretend to be this other person. But this is really who I am, and it's always who I've been. So I'm just glad to be the real me here with you tonight, Dave.
Well, what's really cool is one of our valued listeners, Manuel, who's been in our chat room a number of times. He's actually a former student of yours and a veteran, and he was actually one of your classes in 2015.
2015. Okay. Yeah. That was before I started talking about all this stuff. So just before, because the experience I had in 2016 with my friend Gene, who was an actor up in Seattle. Also, his parents were Norwegian immigrants, came over after World War II. He came to me in a vision a month after he died, and which is not unusual for me to have these visions of people who've passed away. But this one was very special because he told me it was time to tell my paranormal stories and let people know about my paranormal life. And he encouraged me to start publishing, which I'd never published anything about that. It's all been history and political science and that kind of, standard academic publishing. So he convinced me, and he told me, even gave me the name of the book. It should be called Timeless, because he said we are timeless. And he's continued on in the spirit world. So he said where he is in the spirit world, there's no future, there's no past. It's just all together. An eternal now, I think is what he said. So little did I know that book would turn into a second book, a third book, and now so the trilogy of books, the Timeless trilogy, and now a fourth book focusing on a particular alien entity, an ancient alien mystic named Anzar. So here we are, and after all that, it's been a whirlwind the last 5 years. So yeah, that was just he took my class just a year before I had that vision with Gene.
Well, we're going to get into Gene here in just a little bit, because I think we do need to talk about that. But I also want to mention that in less than 2 weeks, you are going to be appearing and speaking on the virtual conference of Contact in the Desert. Now, I'm going to be doing a little bit of hosting there as well. And This is my first time involved with the event, and it's something that I've really strived for. And I got to tell you, I mean, what's it like, being able to have that platform the size of Contact in the Desert?
Well, it's a huge honor. I was going to do it last year, but of course that it got canceled because of COVID-19. So, and then this year, I wish it was in person, but this is the next best thing to do. Do a virtual one, and so I'll be talking about Anzar, some of my research that's also part of the book. And then I'm also part of a panel discussion about alien contact with some real luminaries in the ufology community, and just some really cool people like Whitley Strieber, Terry Lovelace, Ralph Blumenthal, the New York Times writer and editor. So these people, I didn't think I'm friends with Terry, but I hadn't really met all these other people. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Terry's a class guy.
He is. He's a good friend of mine, and so it's a wonderful experience, and I think people would really enjoy it.
I think so too, and like I said, I wish it was in person as well, because you hear so many great stories coming out of Contact in the Desert, and unfortunately, the show must go on one way or another, and virtually it is. But I mean, the good news is with everything starting to open up next year, we can all gather at Contact in the Desert, have a drink, have a cheers, and shake some hands once again, because we'll be allowed to do that. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am.
Yeah, me too. And it's great people watching. You meet some really unusual people, really cool people, and it's just very entertaining and awesome. And it's hard to pick like all these different speakers, and you want to hear all of them, but then they're like, some are staggered, but some are at the same time, and you have to make really hard choices about who you want to hear. But with the virtual one, you can, I think for 2 weeks after they present it, you could actually hear everybody. You could listen to everybody.
Absolutely. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. For you, you mentioned that you started having experiences at the age of 4.
Yeah.
I don't know a single 4-year-old that is ready for those type of experiences. I mean, I look at my son. My son and I have seen a couple of weird things, and he'll be 8 on the 23rd. And I got to tell you, I mean, it's weird. It's scary when, as a child, you're talking about things that should only be in fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what helped me was that my mom was very psychic. So she kind of guided me through all this stuff. And, like when I was growing up, she taught me how to do telepathy with playing cards. We would do that. And she was really into astrology. My father was not. We would read cards, for each other until my dad came in and told us to put it away because it was nonsense. So I think what it was is he was kind of afraid of it. He doesn't like that kind of stuff. And he lived through, they both lived through World War II, the Nazi occupation. My dad was in a Nazi labor camp. He was a fisherman in Alaska, one of the deadliest catch kind of guys. And just tough as nails guy, but man, he didn't like the paranormal stuff. That I think frightened him. So that's why he told us to put the cards away whenever he caught us doing that.
It sounds so familiar. I remember back in 2013, my dad's a real 5 senses type of guy too. And back in 2013, I remember I was all excited because I was out in the forest behind my friend's house, and we had an encounter with 2 Sasquatch. And cool. I called up my dad that evening. I'm like, Dad, you're not going to believe what happened to me today. And he goes, what? And I said, I saw 2 Sasquatch in the forest. And he goes, no, you didn't. And I'm like, and immediately I went from like 0 to 100 miles an hour and just anger like that. I'm like, why would I waste my time calling you about this if I didn't see it? I don't believe in that crap. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just hung up on him, right? But I mean, that's that generation of hardworking and, maybe, had a tough life in your parents' case due to the war. And in my parents' or my dad's case, it was, he had to quit school because my grandfather was an alcoholic drinking away the farm. And, that is something that they had to grow up that way. They had no choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It was very no nonsense. Just, get down to the brass tacks,
For sure.
It's the way they lived their lives.
For sure. So when your mom and you were sneaking these psychic abilities, this telepathy around, how did you get away with it without upsetting your father?
Well, we would just kind of casually be playing cards, and then we'd start, like playing what we used to call concentration, where you put all the cards out and you try to match the like cards, and then we would slowly start phasing into, okay, well, let's try reading each other's minds. And my dad would be reading the newspaper, watching the news, and then he wouldn't always pay attention to what we were doing. And then when he did, he would tell us to knock it off. He might be amused for 1 or 2 sessions where we got some hits, all in a row. And then as soon as it became too apparent that it wasn't just chance, he would, say that was it. So yeah, we were able to do that. And my mom was always very respectful of my dad and that. So we'd put the cards away and then she'd wink at me, which I knew, that's real. And this is what we're doing. And we would talk about, she was very interested in astrology. So she would talk about the different signs and she loved, I forgot her name, Jeannie Dixon, I think was the big astrologer. She would always read. She was one, at least here in the States. And so that's how we did it. And my dad did like to tell stories, and he would occasionally tell a ghost story. It was never his ghost. It was always somebody else's that he was told. So he would say it was like a tall tale, but so, we were able to balance that out. I remember once we were at a funeral for a dear old family friend, an old Norwegian guy, older than my parents. He had passed away, and it was an open casket funeral, and I was probably 13 or so, maybe 14. And I'd never been in an open casket funeral. It was quite a shock. So I'm sitting there next to my mom, my dad on the other side of my mom, and I'm looking at the casket, and all of a sudden I hear the man's voice, and he's dead in the casket, right? I hear his voice in his heavy Norwegian accent, saying, I'm okay. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. I'm okay. Nothing to be afraid of. And he's saying it just like he talked. I know it was his voice. So I looked at my mom. I looked at the casket again. I looked at my mom. My mom just kind of smiled at me. She didn't tell me she heard it because my dad was right there, so she didn't want to bring it up. But I knew she heard it too. And so that was kind of the way it was. It wasn't, discussed so openly, but it was understood that this was real. And I was taught that it's okay to have invisible playmates, or invisible to other people, but not to me. So when I would, the teacher would tell my mom that I had too much of an imagination, talking about invisible playmates, she would defend me, and then just say, maybe don't talk about it to the teacher or other kids too much. And I'd say, okay. So I kind of understood that you got to keep it on, have situational awareness, and don't, because a lot of people aren't going to be accepting.
Yes, I know with my daughter, when she was in elementary school, our house was haunted, and she would run around telling all the kids, hey, my house is haunted. Look how cool this is. And all of a sudden there were no kids coming over anymore. So we had to have that talk with her too on that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Dr. Bruce Solheim is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. For you growing up in a household where all of this was happening, do you remember your first time you talked to a ghost?
Yeah. Let's see. I would have to say when let's see. Well, the one I clearly remember is my grandmother. Well, okay. It was more of it wasn't so much talking as feeling, and I felt her. And we were in Norway after my grandmother had died, just after she died. And everybody had left the house, the old farmhouse where my grandmother lived. They went next door to our cousin's house, because we're related to everybody on that island, And even my parents are related, which is, I guess, something I shouldn't say, but they're like seventh cousins or something. So I think it's fine. But as far as I know, it's fine. But anyway, so I was alone in the old farmhouse, and I was getting ready to go over to the cousin's house where my mom and dad were having coffee. And all of a sudden, I felt the presence of somebody. I didn't see them, and they didn't say anything, but I knew there was somebody there. And then I could smell my grandmother, and because when she had died just recently, so the house still smelled kind of like, the smell of a grandmother. And I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was very reassuring. It was very, very loving, kind of pat on the shoulder. And I turned around, there was nobody there. And I remember I ran next door and told, my parents and my cousins, I think grandma is over there, and she just touched me on the shoulder. And my parents just kind of, looked at me. And then my cousin just looked around, and he said, oh yeah, there's a lot of ghosts around here. And yeah, we've seen her too. She's there. She's still in the house. And it was no big deal. It was just, this is northern Norway on a remote island. It's just generally accepted. It's not a big deal. It's not, you don't call up well, there's not really, well, there is a newspaper, but nobody's going to call it up and say, hey, we had a ghost experience. No, everybody's having these experiences all the time. And I think what it is in a hustle and bustle of modern society, people don't pay attention to that stuff and they dismiss it. Whereas if you live in a place that's very remote, I think people are more accepting of it as part of their everyday life. It's a more natural kind of approach to the whole thing.
Why do you think it's such a hard approach here in North America then?
I think people have kind of gotten away from their ancestral roots. What I call, if you talk to indigenous people, they still carry that tradition. But at one point, we were all indigenous people, and we all had, a very lively spirit connection. It was part of our everyday life. And in fact, I think that's a detriment that we don't have that. Because there is a spirit world that is contacting us all the time. So I think that part of what Anzar is showing me in these and telling me in these communications that I have with him, this ancient alien mystic, is that we're going to have an era of reconversion where we go back to understanding our connection to the universe and to nature and to animals and the earth and our star brothers and sisters, that we're all related, we're all connected. So that's what he calls an era of reconversion. So I think it's because of the the modern technological society, which is great, that we have all these modern conveniences and medicine, but why can't we have the best of both worlds? Why can't we have that and our ancient connections to the universe and to spirit, the spirit world? And what a more rich and rewarding life that would be for all of us if we could realize that we're timeless beings, and we don't have to have such fears that's kind of pounded into us, especially the fear of death.
Oh, you just hit the nail on the head for me, man. When I start, literally, I will have a major anxiety attack the minute I start going in depth into my head about death. Death. It absolutely drives me crazy to the point where I've literally gone running down the street screaming. You know, and it's just one of those things. I just can't get over it. I can't. I've been shown signs. Of some really cool things. However, just not my gig, man. Not looking forward to it. Not looking forward to it. We have just under 2 minutes before we got to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is here. He'll be speaking at Contact in the Desert just in a couple weeks' time, virtually at contactinthedesert.com. If you want to check it on out, I highly suggest you do. Now, for you, and in the next half hour, we're going to get into Gene and everything and start getting into some real cool stories that you have. For you, at what point did you decide that you needed to put pen to paper and draw all of this out on a book?
Well, I started writing stories when I was 8 years old, so I collected all my stories. I still have some of the very early things that I wrote. And I kept journals. And so even though I was not publishing all my paranormal experiences, I was collecting all of these stories. So when it came time, after Gene told me it was okay, I had a deep well to draw from. And I selected 89 of what I considered were the most interesting experiences, paranormal experiences that I had, and put them into these 3 books. And so it was fun going through that and putting them into a publishable form. But the first book didn't come out until 2018. So, but I'm 62 now. So that was when I was 59 years old. So I had already had a very long paranormal life before I decided to talk publicly about it. And I wish I would have done it earlier, but I guess the timing was right. And Gene was the one who gave me the nudge. And so he figures prominently into this story.
Very cool. And we're going to get into the story of Gene when we come back, because this is one heck of a story. I have purposely not read up about it. The minute I saw the word Gene, I walked away because I needed to hear it from you and from the horse's mouth. And I'm proud that you're here. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Channeling paradigms, ghosts, paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrial contact. We are running the gamut tonight on the mighty SOR. This is what we do. This is what we live for on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we are clear.
Okay. All right. Nice sip of water.
Thanks, Vinny. Good to see you. If you see me put up these notes here, if they look a little sarcastic, I have a very sarcastic audience that seems to take shots at me, like Vinny here. Vinny's one of these people who he has web feet, so he is just a weird dude. But we love him around here.
Yeah. No, I like the rapport you have with your audience.
You having fun?
Yes, I am.
Good.
I was going to tell you, who you remind me of? Actually a famous comedian and actor.
Oh no!
Wonder if you can guess who you remind me of. Maybe telepathically I'll send it to you. I don't know if it'll work. Doesn't always work.
I don't look like anybody.
It's not so much how you look; it's how you. It's just the persona that you have. Your entertaining nature. Zach Galifianakis. You kind of remind me. You kind of remind me of him. You kind of do.
I could see that.
Yeah. He's got good hair and a good beard too.
Yes. So. Well, everybody's saying that you and I should be brothers right now.
Well, there we go. We don't know. Could be.
Like my buddy Mark here says, so did you guys do a pre-show meet to select what hairstyle for tonight? Now Mark's the kind of guy, just to be absolutely blunt, he has, in order for him to look like he has hair on top of his head, he has to comb his back hair upwards. So, I mean, you don't want that in life. Let me just say hello to some people here. Project Blue Book, good to see you. Vinster, I love it when you're here, buddy. Thank you for coming on in. And Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness, welcome back. Troy SR71, it's always a pleasure to have you here. The lovely and talented Sean Cahill is here, everyone. This man is one of the very few who has better hair and beard combination than I do in ufology. I love you, Sean. You mean a lot to me, buddy. Right there. And you know what that means. Thank you for the great conversation earlier today. Hey, Cecil, how you doing, MPM? Good to have you here. And who else do we got here that I haven't said hello to? Cherry Pepsi Mike. He is the inventor of the clip-on keyboard tie, because he wears a clip-on. Let's see here. I am not autographing pancakes at the local Denny's. We don't have a Denny's here. What's your opinion on eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I like breakfast for dinner. I do. I think breakfast anytime is fine.
All right. Don't take his class. Don't take his class.
I like bacon. That's the thing.
Well, that's universal.
Yeah.
That's universal.
As long as it has bacon, I'm fine.
Lori, thank you for that amazing super chat. Really do appreciate that. All right. Question number 2 for you. Are you, Devil's Tower in Wyoming? Mm-hmm. Are you on Team Stump or are you on Team Rock?
I prefer the Native American explanation, where you had the 7 sisters who were chased up to the top of it and by a giant bear, and the scoring of the side of it was the giant bear, and then the 7 sisters ascended into the heavens and became the Pleiades. So I like that story. That's a cool story. I think it's a Lakota story.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's how I've been there. It is a mind-blowing place. We got there just later in the day, and one side of it was dark. The other side was still lit. And I can't get over how cool it looked and how mystical it is. And I
want to go there.
It's marvelous. And it's in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing really around it. You just, all of a sudden you're there and you go, how in the heck did this happen?
Well, I'm getting people now. I'm on Team Bear. Hey, a bear can't scratch a rock. A bear can scratch a tree stump. So if you're on Team Bear, you are on Team Stump, just to clarify. Exactly. Hi, Boots here. How are you? Good to see you. And we're good here. We're good here. At least you're 1 for 2, so we can continue the interview tonight.
You're against the breakfast for dinner.
I totally am. Totally am. Uh-huh.
I'm just very pro food. That's
Me too.
It's an issue.
Hey, we got 20 seconds. Thank you to Lori for kicking off the super chat tonight. Really much appreciate that. Little Marky Spender, you need to come over and help me fix my lawnmower on Thursday. My grass is getting long. So I'll call you tomorrow. Here we go, everyone. Here comes the second half hour right now. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for taking the time to allow us to earn your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And of course, our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. We got a great guest, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. And this man is going to be appearing at Contact in the Desert coming up in just a couple of weeks. His website, bruceolavsolheim.com. We're into the paranormal tonight. And you had this incredible experience, Dr. Solheim, with a friend turned spirit named Gene. I'm going to let you take the driver's seat here and fill us in.
Yeah, so Gene Thorkelson is his name, so you can tell it's a Norwegian name. We grew up together from little kids and tragically died in September 2016. He was an actor. He was a wonderful human being. Everybody loved him. He lit up a room when he came in. He's just funny. He was fluent in Norwegian, and knew all the jokes. He knew all the Norwegian and Swedish jokes that we loved and cared about so much. And it was a big blow when he passed away. And a month after he died, I was not asleep. I was just kind of lying in bed, and I looked over towards the walk-in closet, and there he was. And when I say I saw him, it was a kind of like a what do you call it? A hologram. That's kind of what it looks like. And then when I have a vision, it's usually very holographic. And but it was an intelligent spirit in that I could talk to him. So after the initial startle, even though I've seen ghosts and spirits before, it's always kind of shocking when it happens. And once I got over that, I just said hello, and he said hello. And I said, I asked what probably a lot of people would ask, because he had just passed away. I said, Gene, what's it like to be dead? And he laughed in his characteristic laugh. And then he said, it's funny. I don't feel dead. I'm in another place. I'm in the spirit world, but I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm good. And he showed me that he wasn't wearing shoes. And he said, I love it. I don't have to wear shoes anymore. I said, well, that's a plus. I don't really like wearing shoes either. I like being barefoot. And then he told me, he said he had a mission, and his mission was to tell me it's time to tell your paranormal stories, and you can't hide it anymore. And I said, well, what's going to happen? I'm an academic, a professor, and people might think I'm crazy. I might lose my job. My students will laugh at me. Colleagues will abandon me. So, what do you think's going to happen? He said, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And he said, I think you should call the book Timeless. And I said, timeless? And he said, yeah, because where I am, there's no future, there's no past. It's all the eternal now. And I've been talking since that time. I've written the 3 Timeless books and now the Anzar book. And I talk to him every time I take a spirit walk, which is about 3 or 4 times a week. I will take a meditative spirit walk, usually at least 2 miles, sometimes 5 miles. Part of it, I will get into a meditative state and talk to Gene, talk to my parents. Sometimes I get special requests from friends, to contact a dead relative. And then I talk to Anzar as well every single time. Now, the cool thing is that I record these. So not that I hear that you can on the tape hear their voice, but what I hear, I will say into my recorder, along with my question, whatever their response is, I'll record that too. And why that is so essential is because when I first started it, I didn't do that. I just tried to remember, and I couldn't remember everything, because once you're in a meditative state, it's a different state of mind, it's a different state of consciousness. Can't always remember it. So the recordings have helped me. So I ended up with 300 pages of transcripts from these these sessions, these spirit walk sessions, of which I used to write the Anzar book. that's part of the book anyways, these conversations. And Gene is part of the book too, because he's just part of everything. I always have to mention him. He was an actor, so he always likes to be mentioned. I feel like he's always looking over my shoulder. He's probably looking at you right now and enjoying the show. I know. And enjoying, being talked about, and he should be, he's worthy of praise. And if it wasn't for Gene, we wouldn't be talking right now. I wouldn't have written those books. I'd still be hiding my paranormal life, which would be very unfortunate.
For you and the way this communication happened, it just seems so natural, so subtle, like it was right there and you just kind of went with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go with the flow with that rather than show fear of that situation?
I've had so many spirit experiences. I mentioned the one earlier about hearing the guy, the family friend who was in the coffin, so I've had so many spirit communications before that I'm not saying that it's blasé, it's like, oh, another spirit. Okay. No, it's always interesting and sometimes even startling, but it doesn't freak me out. And to give you an example of what probably would have freaked a lot of people out, I was on a job interview before I got the job here in Southern California. I was flown out to New Hampshire. Well, actually to Boston, took a bus to New Hampshire, New London, New Hampshire, for an interview at Colby Sawyer College. And when a guy picked me up at the bus stop, drove me into town, it was like I was going into a Stephen King novel. The way the town looked, this old New England town. And we were driving up towards the college, but there was on this hill, a little hill, there was this old building from the late 1700s, early 1800s, had a steeple in it with a bell tower. It looked scary as hell. I mean, it was just a scary looking building. And I said, what's that? And he said, that's the old academy building. I said, oh, well, wow, that's kind of scary. And he said, well, that's where you're staying tonight. And, it's like I was like in a Stephen King movie or novel or whatever. So he pulled in there and he helped me with my bags. And I went upstairs, found a room. And I said, who else is staying here? And he said, nobody. And so then oh, okay. And so I tried to act, cool about it. And so I went about my routine. I was, brushed my teeth, was reading a book. All of a sudden I started hearing noises, right away. And I'm just a magnet for this. I'm a paranormal lightning rod. If there's something going on, I will pick up on it. And I started hearing noises, and I thought the guy had come back, the guy that gave me a ride. So I went down. No, he wasn't there. I heard chairs shuffling around, people's voices, lots of people's voices, mostly women's voices. And it just kept going. And I kept going downstairs, looking there, nobody there. So this kept going on and, for a long time. And I just kind of pulled the sheets over my head and just went to sleep. Well, the next morning I went out to get a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop, and there was a guy sweeping the streets, and he's this old New England guy, and it's like an ancient looking broom. I don't even know why he had this kind of broom, but he said, you're not from around here, are you? And I said, no. He said, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here for the job interview at the college. And he goes, where are you staying? And I said, I'm staying at the old academy building. And he said, did they tell you it's haunted? And I said, no, they didn't bother to tell me that, but I know it is because I heard a lot of stuff. And he said, oh yeah. He said, last week there was a lady from out of town, came in for a job. She didn't make it through the night. She ran out into the street, and the police had to come and get her and put her up in a hotel somewhere else. And I said, well, I made it through the night, so I'm okay. And I went about the job interview that day thinking, okay, I get to go home after that. And there was a delay. So they said, oh, I'm sorry, Bruce, you're going to have to stay one more night. We get to see the college president tomorrow. And I said, okay, well, I made it the first night. Second night, same thing started happening. The voices, the chairs moving around. I said, okay, I can handle this. And then I started hearing music, like this old Victrola started up, those old wind up. And it was like, and it was, I don't know what the song was, and more voices, more chairs, more shuffling around. And I thought, man, this is really getting spooky. So I called my wife at the time, now ex-wife. And I told her what was going on. And she said what a lot of people would say, get out. What are you doing there? I mean, and I said, no, I'm not going to, no, it might be part of the job interview. Maybe they want to see if you can take it. It's a haunted place. So she said, "You're crazy." And I said, "Yeah, maybe so." And then, okay, so tried to start reading my book. All of a sudden, the music, the sounds, the chair, everything stops, just dead quiet, right? You can't hear anything. And then in the corner of my room, a ghost. And it was this old lady just staring at me, this very dour looking New England lady with the black bonnet and black dress. She had a very angry look on her face. She wasn't communicating with me, but it was very clear she was not happy with me. And I just looked at her. I said, "Hey, I'm going to leave in the morning. I'll never probably come back. I don't even think I'm going to get this job. I'm sorry. I don't mean to bother you." And she was there for a while, and eventually she popped. She disappeared. When I got up in the morning, I went and looked at some of the portraits in that upper floor, and sure enough, on the far wall was a portrait of that lady that I'd seen that night, the ghost, and it was the founder of the college, Susan Colby. And it was an all-women's college at the time. So obviously that building was where the original college was, the Colby College. And it was a teacher's college, I guess, for women. And she was not happy that I was there. And that's probably what it was. I didn't get the job. When I got home, I did a bunch of research, found out it's one of the most haunted places in New England. I didn't know that going in. I just knew it was a spooky building when I got there. But so, that's the kind of stuff that happens. So I think I can pretty much make it through any kind of ghost experience. The things that I really get to me are the demonic things. That's probably because it hits at my early childhood upbringing, where the biggest fear you have is the devil, and the demonic stuff, from my Lutheran upbringing. So I've had those experiences that were much, much worse than any ghost experience that I've had. So spirits, ghosts, talking to them, seeing, the dead people, it doesn't really bother me. But things that demonic stuff is very scary, I have to admit. I avoid that like the plague.
You ran into that quite a bit?
Just a couple of times. The most... it's a cautionary tale. I'll tell you, in January of 2019, I was on this national talk show, and a lot of people contacted me, and then this one guy was a film producer, and he said, he called me up. He's living in Chicago, and he said, "Yeah, I want to bring you out to Chicago to test your abilities. I think you might be the real deal." And I said, "Well, I mean, I've had all these experiences." And he said, "Well, I want to do a documentary, and I think you might be the guy I want to use for the documentary." And I said, "Okay, that's cool. I'll come out." And I said, "But I don't want to go alone. I want to bring my wife with me." He said, "Okay, I'll pay for your airfare, your wife's airfare. I'll put you up in a hotel, and I'll take you to different places around Chicago that have a paranormal history, and see what you can pick up." That was what he said I was going to do. So I was thinking kind of pride took over, and I thought, he's challenging me. He wants to see if I'm really, psychic or whatever and could pick up on this. So he took me to a couple places, like an old graveyard, and I picked up on some cool stuff, what was going on there that he had verified. "Oh yeah, that's right. You're pretty good. You're picking up on it." And then he took me to the south side of Chicago, and he told me, only thing he told me was, "This is a very dark place. Something very dark happened here." I didn't know what it was. I don't know Chicago. So I got out of the car. Immediately, I started picking up on, I saw it was from the 1890s. I saw horse and buggies coming by, people in dark clothing, hustling and bustling. Everybody was moving. Everybody was ignoring me. It's kind of like a movie I see in front of me, but it's in the other world. And there was one guy standing in front of me, maybe about 50 feet in front of me. And he had one of those curly mustaches, a bowler hat, a dark coat, and he was just staring at me. He was the only one recognizing me, acknowledging me. And he looked at me with these very evil eyes. It was kind of scary. And then it kind of went away. So I started walking in the alleyway there by this, it was actually an Aldi's store parking lot where we had parked. So I'm walking there, and I decided to go touch a tree, because it was an old tree. And I always feel like if you touch a rock or a tree or anything that's old, you're going to pick up on something. It helps, transfer the information. I went to touch the tree, and all of a sudden I felt like somebody tackled me. And I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'3", 275. So it takes a lot to drive me into the ground, but it drove me right into the ground so hard that I hurt my knee, hyperextended my left toe. And the weird thing was I couldn't get up. I could not get up. It's like somebody was pushing me into the ground. And when I was down there, face first on the ground, I saw these people underneath, like in a dungeon, and they were being tortured and screaming in agony and kind of pulling and clawing at me like they wanted me to come down to them. And I thought, God, this is horrible. And I was starting to lose my will to resist. That it was draining me. And so I was able to break free, and he didn't have the camera on me, but he had me mic'd up. So he's listening to me describe this. So he comes running out of the car because he had some camera problems. But he came running out, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay. This is terrible. I don't know what's going on here, but this is a terrible place." And he said, "I feel funny too. I think we better get out of here." So as we were driving away, I asked him, I said, "What is this place?" And he said, "Well, it's the site of the Murder Hotel, which was the site of in the 1890s. Dr. H.H. Holmes was America's first mass murderer, and he had built this hotel that had these dungeons and torture chambers in them. It was on that location. I had no idea, but this is what I saw. So it was either his demonic spirit, or it was whatever drove him to do up to 300 murders, they think, tortures and murders that he did, men, women, and children, right on that location. So I either picked up on whatever demonic force got him, or him himself. And the cautionary part of this is I didn't do my normal protection when I got out of the car, because I was trying to impress him. I'm going to show this guy what I can do. Put up the radar dish, started picking up all this cool stuff. And man, did I get slammed. I mean, I got psychically assaulted, physically assaulted. These demonic things are real. I mean, they are real and they're harmful. So whenever anybody tells me, "Oh, you should come check out this place, I think there's a demon in there," I'll go, "No, I believe you that it's in there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to have that. I know they're real. I don't need to be proven, that it's real." And I'm just too sensitive, to it. I know what they're up to. It's not anything good. And I was, for 2 weeks after that experience, I remember I went to my paranormal class, and several of my students couldn't be in the same room with me. They said, "You got some attachments on you. There's something going on." I said, "I feel terrible." And I told them about the experience, and they said, "Man, you better go get some, cleansing or something, spiritual cleansing." So that's how I ended up meeting this Peruvian shaman who did this cleansing ceremony. And after that, I felt fine. It was whatever had glommed onto me was driven away. So yeah, you have to do protection. You have to be careful. You can't just race into these things and think I'm going to impress somebody with my connections, because you can get seriously, physically and spiritually hurt, psychically hurt.
Very true. Very true. And how do you tell the difference between an angry spirit and something that is demonic?
Well, I think it's pretty hard sometimes, but you just have to assume it's probably the worst. If there's now it's a difference. If some things, spirits can be rather annoying. When I do my spirit walk, I have protection. I have spirit guides. I ask for protection. I do a lot of prayers beforehand, so I don't get disturbed by that. But when I first started doing them, I wasn't quite as careful. And it was kind of like when you get 100 people trying to get through one doorway at the same time. It's all these spirits. They see that you got the radar dish up, and they can't wait to talk to you, and they want to be first. So they're like pushing and shoving and trying to get in. And it's not that they're malevolent. It's just that they're very insistent, and they're not always very honest about what they want. A lot of them are very needy. They're stuck, And here you are walking around like a bright light. They can see you. They know they can reach you and talk to you. So they all want to talk to you. So you really have to have a bouncer. I call one of my spirit guides is like a bouncer, and he guards the door. So they only one at a time, and only who I want can come through, like Jean or my mom or my dad or aunts or whatever. So that's what you have to do. You have to do this stuff. You have to know how to turn it on, obviously, but more important is know how to turn it off. because if you don't turn it off, you can carry this stuff with you. You could lose sleep. You can even slip into madness, I suppose. I wonder sometimes these people that are schizophrenic and stuff, if they're very psychic, and maybe they just don't know how to handle it, or they have underlying mental illness plus that. Who knows? It's a frightening thought. I actually told that to a psychiatrist once, and he said, I never thought of that before. He said, that's very frightening to think that some of these poor people are very psychic, and maybe that's part of the problem. They don't know how to deal with it. But anyway, that's been my experience. And so I think sometimes it's hard to tell. So it's better to err on the side of caution. And if somebody tells you, oh, I'm a good spirit, you don't know me, but I'm good. Well, maybe not. I didn't really call on you. So, just, we'll figure it out later. Maybe I'll talk to you another time because you have to be very careful.
Yeah, you definitely do have to be careful with what you are reading into the situation, because there's a lot of manipulation that could go on from the other side.
Yeah. And some of it, like I said, is not malevolent. It's just they really want somebody to talk to. They're if you can imagine, they're a lot of them are unsettled where they're at. They need help. They realize you can talk to them, and they're like, wow, this guy can hear me. Great, let's go talk to him. And then they'll just kind of glom onto you, and they'll drain your energy. They don't mean to do it. It's not like they're trying to be mean, but I guess maybe it's kind of like celebrities that go out in public and people recognize them and they just get mobbed. It's kind of, not that I think I'm a celebrity, but I just assume that that's kind of maybe what it's like. And these people are just draining your energy from you, and it's not that they mean to do it. They just really want somebody to recognize them. So anyway, that's been my experience. And so I'm very, very careful. And I always advise people to be very careful. And before, really it's just in the last 5 years that I've really figured out how to manage all this. Before that, it was just random, frequent experiences all the time. And I had limitations. Like I couldn't go to a party without being uncomfortable, because I'd walk into a room and I didn't know I had my radar dish up, and all of a sudden I'm hearing people's thoughts and their intentions. And it's not so much their thoughts, it's their intentions. And that's bad enough, because you hear, like, if there's 20 people in the room, you have 20 different, people's intentions, their true intentions, which may be very different than what they're saying. And it's just very disturbing. So I'd find myself just kind of shrinking into a corner, finding one person I can talk to and just concentrate on them to try to drown out the noise. And so you really have to learn how to manage it. And once you do that, then it makes it a lot easier to focus intently on who you want to communicate with and who you can just kind of, hey, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now.
Dr. Solheim, you are one of the very few people that I have had on this show who has really run the gamut of experiences, from ghosts and paranormal, psychic ability, intuition, to UFOs, aliens. I'm sure that we could throw some cryptids into the mix as well. I want to ask you about that, because I'm kind of the same way. I've run the gamut with a bunch of different experiences, a plethora, shall we say, because it's my favorite word. And, for a lot of people out there, they don't believe that all of these experiences can happen to one person. And I want to talk with you about that when we come back on Spaced Out Radio, because we are now 1 hour in, 2 hours to go on Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. He'll be speaking at Contact in the Desert, the virtual conference, in less than 10 days. You're definitely going to want to check this out. Tickets on sale at contactinthedesert.com. We'll be back with hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear?
All right.
All right, I'm going to just run my dogs outside. I'm just going to mic down, and we'll be right back, okay?
Okay, I'm just going to, what I have, like 2 minutes maybe, something like that.
We got about 5.5 minutes.
Oh, okay, all right, that's enough time.
No hurry.
Okay, thank you. how to use my headphones and the little microphone, which cancels out the mic, the omnipresent or the omni, whatever mic on the camera. So, well, I only got like another 2 minutes. But, you're locking in is my locking in.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Look at what sign I have right here. Sometimes I have to put this on the door.
Oh,
You see?
I get you.
And if I lock this for the bathroom, everybody starts teasing out.
I know. Start banging on the door.
Yes, it's really helpful.
Okay.
How many millions of people are you talking to? And you're just out there talking to them. You're so brave. What?
Now it's warm. I was cold. Now it's warm.
Maybe because you spent 5 minutes in there.
It's better out here. So you guys can be out here and do stuff. It's fine.
Well, I'm really trying not to bother you, but it's been pretty funny.
Oh.
All right, I am back. Hi, Irish Lincoln. How are you? Good to see you. And the Akinator, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Delta Jungly, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Hey, Doc.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
You having a good time?
I am. This is fun. I enjoy talking to you and hearing about your wonderful audience.
Yeah, they're pretty good people, except for Vince. He's a little
Watch
bit of
out.
a weird. Yeah, he's a little bit of a weirdo.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Hi, Olin. Eva. Nice to see you, Eva. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all right. They're good people. I enjoy them. They're very, our audience is very intelligent and they are very accommodating. So like when somebody new comes in, hey, Howard, how are you? When somebody new comes in, they're always very awesome to welcome new people into the chat room as well. It's really, really comforting. We're going to get going here in about 20 seconds. And big thank you to Cedric, to Alaska's greatest athlete, to Jason ×2, and Lori for the amazing super chats. And we really do appreciate the love and support here on Spaced Out Radio. And we're going to continue on here with the second hour right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. One Chansey. One Chansey is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. He'll be speaking at Contact in the Desert in less than 2 weeks' time. It's a virtual conference. If you go to contactinthedesert.com, you can check him on out, as well as the other amazing, amazing speakers they are going to have. Dr. Bruce, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks. I'm having a great time. This is good.
We're going to have to do this again. I'm already saying this. We are going to have to do this again. Yeah. I want to ask you about your experiences. All right. Because so many people have seen a UFO, or they've seen Sasquatch, or they've seen gnomes or fairies or ghosts or whatever, but they have very rarely seen a multitude of different happenings. You are one of the very few people that we have had on this show who's actually run the gamut with experiencing pretty much anything you've wanted to experience. Why do you think you're so much different, or there are people like you that are so much different than others who would love to see a Sasquatch? They spend all their time in the forest and they get nothing. Or want to see a UFO or an extraterrestrial, they get nothing.
Well, I think everybody has the capacity to do it. I like what Gene says. He says that experiencing is believing, and believing is experiencing. So once you've had an experience and you're open to more, you believe that it's possible. And once you believe, it opens you to more experiences. You have more experiences, and you just keep going. There's no end to it. How deep you can get into this. And I think that's part of it. Some people might have, be predispossessed to do this. Maybe, I have a little bit of lineage with my mom. She was very psychic. Her mother was very psychic. So I think there's that probably helps. There's probably some kind of genetic element to it. But I think everybody has paranormal experiences. They may not recognize it. Like in my paranormal class, I'll have some people that are skeptics, and I have some people say, I'd love to have a paranormal experience, but I've never had one. And I said, well, have you ever felt like somebody was staring at you? Yeah. And you turned around and there was actually somebody staring at you? Yeah, I've had that many times. I've had that happen. I said, well, that's paranormal. How in the heck can you see them if you don't have eyes in the back of your head? How are you knowing that they're staring at you? Oh, I never thought of it that way. That's paranormal. So I think a lot of times people just dismiss something as either circumstance or coincidence, or, just intuition or something, which is paranormal when you think about it. The paranormal is really normal, and the supernatural is really natural. And I think it's just accepting that. And from a very young age, I just accepted it, and my mom encouraged me. And I think that's what it is. I'm just so open to it. That being said, every once in a while, I do get skeptical about certain things. I hear something that maybe I hadn't heard about before, and I'll be a little bit skeptical, and that's fine. To be a little bit skeptical is natural. It's a natural reaction. But then it just keeps presenting itself, and then you realize, oh, well, there's another one. There's another experience to add to the next book or whatever. And but the thing that ties all this together, and what makes it not just so random and maybe unique or whatever, and maybe helps explain it, is that the spirit world, the alien world, and the quantum world, the world of subatomic particles, it's all really the same thing. It's all tied together. So like when people see ghosts, they vibrate into our reality and then they disappear, right? They go through walls and ceilings and windows and stuff. And then you hear about people who have seen aliens, and they said, well, they vibrate into my reality, they appear, then they disappear, or they'll carry me through the ceiling into their ship. How is that possible? Well, in the quantum world, of course that's possible, because everything is a wave form. What we see, our subjective reality, is solid objects, but in reality, in the quantum reality, everything is made up of waveforms, and it doesn't look anything like what we see. And that is what physicist David Bohm called the implicate order, or the implicate reality, or objective reality. And what we have is the explicate order, or the explicate reality, which is our everyday reality. So when you get enough glimpses of that implicate reality, it's kind of like this little narrow pathway becomes a super highway, and it's a lot easier to just, oh, okay, there it comes. All right, it just comes right on through, and you're just, I think ghosts and aliens, they realize that you're an easy mark. You're someone who they can really get to right away, and and I think once you understand that that's how the world is in reality, then it just opens you up to every possibility. And I know that there's certain elements, that some people like. I can do mediumship really well, but not so great at remote viewing. Which is another remarkable skill that people have. And the chief scientist at IONS, he's a friend of mine, Dr. Dean Radin. IONS is the Institute of Noetic Sciences in Petaluma, California. That was the organization founded by astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who had a paranormal experience in space. He started that. Dean Radin said that, well, okay, so you're really good at channeling or mediumship, but you're not so great at remote viewing. Think of like track and field. You might be really good at throwing the shot put, but you're not really a sprinter. You're not that good at sprinting. I mean, you're an athlete, but you have a specialty. And that's kind of how he described it, that you can't be excellent at every single thing, but you can be open to it and you can experience it, but you may not be, able to do, remote viewing on command and that type of stuff. But and the other analogy I use is a baseball analogy. I like sports. So some people, everybody can throw a ball. Everybody can throw a ball. Some people can throw it 90 miles an hour. And if you can throw it 90 miles an hour, you're in the major leagues. You throw it 60 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour, nobody cares. But everybody can throw a ball. So, but you can train yourself to get better. But there's a certain limit. And one psychic told me, I thought it was pretty cool. He told me, everybody's as psychic as they need to be. So maybe there's not a need for it for some people. Maybe they would have difficulty in their life if they were any more psychic than they were. Maybe they couldn't handle it. Maybe it's not what they want, really. They think they want it, but do you really want to, be walking into a room and hear people's intentions? And I mean, it could drive you mad. So maybe it's not something for them. So I think I really do think that's true. Now, I think it's both a blessing and a curse. I think it's more of a blessing than a curse because I've accepted it in my life. Now that I can talk about it, it's great. When I couldn't talk about it, it was very frustrating because, who am I going to talk to this about? A few select people, but, in my classes, my good friends, even my good friends, I didn't really talk about this stuff. Now I do. And instead of them running away in horror, thinking I'm nuts, they actually come to me and they see me as kind of a safe harbor. And they say, okay, I had this weird experience once. Can you tell me what you think about it? So I'm kind of the person they can talk to. And that's good for them. And it's good for everybody if you can be honest about this stuff and we can all try to figure it out. So anyway, that's kind of what I think. So I've been, since I was 4 years old, I've been open to all these experiences, and it's not unusual for me. And but like I said, it can be, there's pluses and minuses to that.
I want to ask you in regards to the experiences and the attraction that comes along with it. When you put out that Kmart blue light special that you are open for business, and I mean that in all due seriousness, as much as I was hoping you would laugh.
Yeah.
All right. Can anything pick that up? Because this is where I get a little bit lost and my thinking's a little fragile on it, because for a lot of people out there, they put out those intentions that they want to see a black triangle, or they want to see Sasquatch when they're going hiking through the forest, and nothing happens. So how do we elevate the intention of wanting to have that experience and making it happen?
I think persistence is part of it. There was an old movie in 1971 that came out starring Dustin Hoffman called Little Big Man. And there was this great actor who played the Indian chief, Dan George, played Old Lodge Skins in that movie. And at the end of the movie, he was going to go to die. He went to his ceremonial hilltop and he was going to die. That was his place, and to pass into the spirit world. And he laid down and said, "I'm going to die now." And so Dustin Hoffman's character, he's watching him, and then it started to rain, and then he woke up, and he said, "Am I still in this world?" And Dustin Hoffman goes, "Yeah, you are." And he said, "Oh, I was afraid of that." He said, "Sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't." So that's the reality of it. As silly as that is kind of the reality of it. You have to be, it doesn't always work, and it doesn't work every time, and you have to be very lucky sometimes. But the more you try, the more you believe, and the more you read about it and look at different techniques that work for you. Everybody's a little bit different. You have to find what works for you. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. And once it happens, then you go, "Oh, I get it. Now I can repeat that. Maybe I'll know how that works for me." So it doesn't always work the same way. There's basic things like what Gene has told me. He's told me that what you need is focused calm, which is really just meditation. The problem is I can't sit in one place on a little cushion and meditate. I start to think about cheeseburgers and the refrigerator making a noise or whatever. So I have to be moving. If I'm moving, it's easier for me to meditate, oddly enough. So I go on meditative spirit walks, and that's how I connect to Gene and to Anzar and others. That's how it works for me. And just because you can pick up on talk to those who've passed into the spirit world doesn't mean you can do it every time. Sometimes they don't want to talk. And it's kind of like, I look at it, and sometimes the connection's not very good. It's like an old-fashioned radio that you have to tune in. Sometimes it's just staticky and you can't really hear anything. You'll hear like like a little sound, and that's it. Other times it's really clear. Other times you'll see symbols, like symbolic images. Anzar, my ancient alien mystic contact, he'll show me like tape loops of my past. Sometimes he'll go, "Here, this will help you understand," and he'll play a tape loop from my past, so I see what he's talking about, because sometimes the concepts are difficult for me to grasp. It takes a great deal of energy for them to reach down to us, and it takes a great deal of energy for us to reach up to them. So people talk about raising your vibration, raising your level of consciousness. They have to come down to our level so we can meet halfway, so we can make that connection. That's not easy to do. It's really difficult to do. And the more you practice, the more likely it'll happen. And once it happens, the more likely it'll happen again. I think that's the reality of it. So my advice to people is to just keep trying, and read as much as you can, talk to as many meditators and psychic people, and look at all their different techniques and see what works for you and modify it for you. But before you do that, make sure you protect yourself. Very important.
I want to ask you the flip side of that, and then we're going to
Mhm.
get into
Mhm.
Anzar, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. What
Yeah.
about for people who have had that plethora of experiences and then it just stops?
Mhm.
You know, where you could go outside any day of the week and be like, oh, there's a UFO, or there's fairies flying across my yard, there's gnomes in my garden, whatever it may be. And I'm not talking, the plastic or ceramic gnomes. I'm talking real
Mhm.
gnomes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all of a sudden it stops and you can't get it back. Have you heard of those cases? And if so, what's a person to do when you're used to all these experiences and all of a sudden, poof, they're gone?
I think it's very similar because I'm a writer. I write songs, I write plays, I write books, I write poetry. Sometimes in writing, you call it the muse. The muse will strike you, and all of a sudden, you're just writing all these pages, and it's flowing, and it's coming to you like like a fountain is just spreading. And then all of a sudden, it just dries up. You got nothing. I got nothing. I can't even write a word. I don't even know what to do. So at that point, you just shift gears and you try doing something else, and then it'll come back to you. Try doing something unrelated to writing. So I think trying to do something unrelated to, I desperately want to get a psychic experience. Instead, go dig a hole, go do some gardening, go swimming, go, talk to some friends, go out for dinner, just do something other than that. And it'll come back, and it'll come back, and it'll come back whenever it's going to come back. You don't know when that's going to be. I think there's a close connection between the muse that helps you with writing and, these psychic connections, because it's coming from that realm, that spirit realm, which is where the aliens work, in the quantum realm. That's where it's coming from. This great consciousness out there. Because there's just unlimited information, just a universe of information out there that you can pick from. So it is discouraging, though. I know, especially it does happen with me too with psychic. Sometimes I'll go out on a walk and I just it's not happening. The magic's not working today, and that's okay. And just try it again the next time, and it usually does. But if you and it relates to sports too. Like I know with baseball, I love baseball. And with hitting, if you get too much into your own head about the hitting, you're not relaxed. And if you're not relaxed, you can't focus, and then you can't get into the zone. So you have to let it just happen, and do everything you're supposed to do, but then just let it happen, and then go with it when you can. And I think that's the best way to look at it, from different, writing, baseball, hitting, whatever. I think that there's lessons to be learned from all of those.
Who is Anzar?
Anzar is an ancient alien mystic, and he is Anzar the progenitor. So the progenitor is the first. He was our first contact here on Earth. Now, as bizarre as that sounds, and I know it sounds bizarre, I start the book off by saying, if you were to tell me 10 years ago that you, Dave, spoke to an ancient alien mystic, I would probably be very polite. And, I'd say, well, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I just, I got to go, let me think about it or whatever. And it would be hard to believe, and I know it is for folks. But what happened in this case was that Anzar, he didn't call himself Anzar, but I first had my first memory of him was in 1964. So he's been with me my whole life, in contact with me. I just didn't know who he was. And it was my first alien contact that I know about. And it was actually a rescue. And it was a very scary story. I was 6 years old, and there was these neighbors where we lived in Seattle. There was these neighbors that lived in a house above ours on a hill. And when my parents would go places, I would go up there and they would babysit me. Well, the lady was okay, but the man was weird. He was one of these adults that acts like a child. And I don't mean like fun, like you'll play with children and be nice. I mean, like he acted like a brat, like a spoiled child. I mean, he just didn't act like an adult. And he would do odd things like give us these little Dixie cups with what he said was Kool-Aid, but it didn't smell right. Now I know it was alcohol. At the time, I didn't know. I never drank it because I just have always been nervous about taking, drinks that my mom didn't give me, or that I didn't pour myself. And then he would hide in the closet, in a dark closet, and then have the kids, like neighbor kids, and go into the closet and be with him. And I thought, I don't want to do that. So I was afraid of him, but I didn't want to. I didn't know what I was only 6 years old. I didn't know there was something wrong with him. I knew there was something wrong with him. I didn't know what it was. Well, out in my backyard one evening, I saw an alien, a very tall, extraterrestrial. That's the best way I can describe it. He was wearing a robe. He had a upside down teardrop shaped head, big, long, slanted eyes. And he told me he was there to help me. And I was afraid of him. I said, "You look like a monster." He did. He looked like a monster to me. And because I'd watched, movies and sci-fi movies on Saturdays, and he looked like a monster. And he told me, "I might look like a monster, but that man in that house up there is the real monster, and you need to stay away from him." And he showed me his ship. I remember it was holographic. He said, "This is my ship. Someday, maybe you'll get to fly." And I said, "That would be great." As it turned out, I did become a pilot in the U.S. Army. I was a helicopter pilot. But and then there were other kids too that he was helping. Well, later I found out that man. So I never had to go back up to that house. I just told my mom, "I don't want to go up there anymore." And it's like my mom understood. She said, "Okay, yeah, don't go up there anymore." And I asked the alien guy, as it turns out, I didn't know his name was Anzar, but I said, "Should I tell my mom about you?" And he said, "Well, you could, but maybe she'll understand, maybe she won't. But you need to tell them that you don't want to go to that house anymore and don't go up there anymore." So I didn't. And as it turned out, yes, the guy was a child molester. That's what he was doing. And he's passed away now, so we don't have to worry about him. But anyway, that was my first experience. So it was a rescue experience. And I've had several other experiences with other alien entities as well. But specifically Anzar, in 1997, he appeared to me in a vision, like I had a vision of Gene. And he was wearing a robe. But this time he had a little different look to him. He looked more like a proto-human, kind of looked like a proto-human. So he said, "I'm the progenitor." And I recognized him. I said, "You kind of look," even though he had a little different look to him, I recognized him as being a good, a good entity, even though I knew he was an alien entity. And he proceeded.
Dr. Bruce, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Let's hold that thought.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to talk Anzar on Spaced Out Radio with our guest, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim, who'll be speaking at Contact in the Desert coming up in 10 days. ET Contact and Anzar on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I have got a big-ass moth, and it picked me off in the head during the show. I'm surprised you didn't see that.
I didn't see.
Now I got to find him, see where he's hiding in here.
Yeah.
And then I got to put him out the window.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is.
I always rescue those things. I feel like, they're trying to tell me something. I do it with spiders too. I tell them, "Hey, I made a deal with you guys. You stay outside. We live inside the house. So I'll take him outside." But
all I knew is he flew behind me somewhere.
Yeah.
And I can't see him.
Yeah. He's hanging out, listening to the stories.
I don't know where the hell he is, but he's here somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you all of a sudden see me jump up during the show, because he's by my window here, just keep talking. Because I'm going to grab him and I'm going to put him outside.
Yeah, you'll come back eventually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Uncle Dale. Relax, Dave. Moths will not bite you. Wow. Little Marky Spender. It flew out of your wallet. Thanks, bud. All right. Yeah, this is a lot of fun, man. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too. It's a lot of fun. You have a fun show.
I try. You know, it's the rubbing of Uncle Dale's power stash in Austin, Texas, that makes it happen.
I swear you and Zach Galifianakis have like a kindred spirit or something. There's something. You remind me of him.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Where's that damn moth? Now I gotta go stir things up. Honestly, it's bugging me. Where the hell is he? Hold on. How much time do we have? He's around here somewhere. Where are you, you dirty gut? There he is. I got him.
You got him. Okay, good. All
Hold
right.
on, see if I can show him there.
There he is. Well, he's a big one.
Yeah. Get you outside, buddy.
Adios.
There you go.
Okay, good.
Now, what the hell dropped back here? Nothing I need. There's my headphones up my ass. I wasn't going to eat them, Vince. I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat them.
I just have this feeling they're a little bit too powdery or something. Yeah, they probably wouldn't be very good.
No. Thank you, VPXM. Thank you very much for that awesome super chat. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, he was sitting on my guitar and I didn't even see him. Dirty bastard.
It's not one of those kind that eats material or whatever.
Well, he was like this big.
I think.
Well, you saw his claws coming out of my hand.
Yeah, he was a big one. I think the big ones don't do that. I think it's the little ones that eat your clothing or whatever.
Yes. Mystic Warrior, we will move on when we get back from our commercial break on the radio stations. I promise you. But welcome to our chat room. How are you? I hate moths.
Well, there's the Mothman story it's rather frightening.
I know. I don't want to see one of them. I don't want to see
a giant man-sized moth. No, that's not good. I mean,
how much raid do you have to carry when you go into West Virginia or around there?
Yeah, that's not something I want to see. Yeah. It's like the demon stuff, somebody tells me, the Mothman's in there. You want to come look? No, it's okay. I believe you. I don't need to see it.
The one that scares me the most is Dogman. That's the one that scares me because it's like a pissed off house cat. It's just angry every day. Give me a second here. Hi, Walter. Good to have you back. We're about 20 seconds away here. Big thank you to VPXM, to Ozzy, Steve, Madison, Cedric, Emily, Jason ×2, and Lori for the great super chats. It's a great way to support what we do. High casual conversation. Good to have you back. And thank you to all the veterans listening to this show. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim is here, and we're into the woo big time with him. And I'm enjoying every moment of this, and I hope you are too. His website is bruceolavsolheim.com. You can find all his books there. And man, this is one of these conversations, man, that is just going way too fast right now. Way too fast. And I appreciate that. Thank you for joining us, Doc.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really having a good time, and your listeners are great. They're funny comments, and yeah, I just love it. So I'm not usually a night person, so I'm pretty alert right now, which is unusual for me. So that tells you the level of excitement we got going here.
Well, do not fall asleep, because we have another hour with you, and that would really suck on my part. It really
would be bad. It would be really bad. Yeah.
Anzar. We started talking about Anzar late the last half hour, about this extraterrestrial that really saved your life from a horrid experience.
Yeah.
Okay. Or potentially horrid experience. After you met Anzar, and I know you met him later on in life, but did the extraterrestrials now know where you were?
Yeah, because I continued to have experiences with them in 1973, 1977, 1978. This again with Anzar in 1997, and then continuously since 2018, I've made contact with Anzar. So, just to kind of wrap up, I forgot to mention that in 1964, just as, a lot of people, I know you know Terry Lovelace, and you know his story, horrible experience that he had, traumatic experience. My experience, although it was a rescue in 1964, it was still very traumatic. I mean, you can't, meet an extraterrestrial and not have it be somewhat traumatic. It was so traumatic for me that I couldn't speak for 2 years. I had to go to speech therapy. They'd take me out of class, for 2 hours a day so I could learn how to talk again, because I was stammering and stuttering so badly that I just gave up trying to talk, because it was embarrassing and frustrating. And after 2 years, I was able to finally start talking again. And now, of course, I talk for a living. And as my wife says, I just never stopped talking. So that, that it turned out okay. But just to let you know, it was still a traumatic experience, although it was a rescue. But back to 1997, this contact, that's where he called himself the progenitor, because I didn't know what his name was before. I just knew he was this alien that had helped me. I in this experience in this I guess you could call it a vision that I had in 1997. He told me how things work, like how the dimensions work, like a black hole in this universe will turn into a quasar in a multiverse in another universe, and that's how things are connected. And it was fascinating. A lot of it was over my head, but I wrote down everything that he said. I even drew a picture of him, but I kept it in my back pocket. I didn't really talk to anybody about it. And then in 2001, so 4 years later, there was a colleague of mine. She was an anthropology professor, and she's passed away, so may she rest in peace. But I went up to her and said, I got to tell you something. I was dying to tell somebody in my academic life. So I thought she'd be a good one. She's an anthropologist. She studied, ancient peoples and their religions and shamanism, and said, okay, she'd be a good one. She'll understand. So I showed her the drawing I did of Anzar, or of the progenitor, as he was called then, and told her the story of how I'd seen him and met him. And she looks at me and she said, "You're a pretty spacey dude, aren't you?" And she said it not in a real nice way. So I got the idea that, okay, maybe I shouldn't talk to anybody about this stuff. So I kept it to myself again. And it wasn't until, Gene, as we talked about earlier, convinced me that it was time to not be afraid. It was time to tell the stories. And so in 2018, when I started taking these walks, these spirit walks, I started by talking to Gene. And I finally said, I'd like to speak to the progenitor. Gene, can you help me find him, somewhere in the spirit world, where you guys are, alien world? And he said, sure. And next thing you know, I'm talking to the progenitor, and I asked him, I said, do you have another name, And he said his name was Anzar. And so Anzar, the progenitor. So from that point, from 2018 until yesterday when I took a spirit walk, I've been talking to him, and I've recorded all those conversations. I've transcribed them into my journal, and that became part of this book, the Ansar book, that focuses just on my communication with them. But half of the book is my research on what I talked about earlier, how the alien world, the spirit world, and the quantum world are all really the same thing. It's heavily footnoted, so it's great for people who are doing research on this stuff. And then the second half of the book is all the transcripts and in chronological order from when I started talking to him. And contained within those conversations are his prophecies, predictions, and preparations that he has warned me about in the last few years. Also, a lot of his wisdom, which I've shared at the end of the book. There's 45 things that I think are the most important things he's told me. And I can share some of those, with you guys, because everybody's talking about this report that's coming out to Congress here in the United States. The intelligence agencies, the Director of National Intelligence, is going to submit this report to Congress, right, about UFOs. What are they real? Are they not? And the Ansar told me this. He said, and I'm going to read it from my notes here. He said, "Extraterrestrial technology and wisdom are precious gifts for all, not a strategic advantage for the few." So he made it very clear that if government agencies are thinking that they can get this technology and this wisdom from extraterrestrials and use it to like strap a bomb on it or gain advantage over their enemies, it's not going to happen. They're not going to allow that to happen. Ansar's told me that's not going to happen. He said it's a precious gift for all of humankind, which is a very comforting thing. Now, those people, a lot of your listeners and yourself have been following in ufology. They've heard the stories by very credible witnesses, members of the military, saying that UFOs have been seen near nuclear sites. Nuclear missiles have been disengaged and turned off, so they become inop. That's the business they're in. They're not going to allow us to destroy our planet. They're very interested in this planet. Obviously, they're very interested in us. So they're not going to allow that to happen, where we have a massive retaliatory, nuclear war type thing. However, they're not going to stop us from, and Ansar's told me, they're not going to stop us from conventional warfare, because they want us to learn our lessons, that we have to cooperate with each other and work together. And that's why every time I talk to him, and this is a very warm, fuzzy thing, because we've talked about a few dark and kind of scary things already. Every time I talk to Ansar, he tells me, always keep love in your heart and operate from a position of love. Now, it sounds kind of maybe somewhat cliche or maybe overly simplistic, but it is an extremely hard thing to do, especially in a society right now, at least here in the States, where everything is so polarized and people are at each other's throats. It's horrible. And the tension level is so high. And always reminding me to keep love in my heart and operate from a position of love, I think, is the foundation of the cooperation that's needed for us to make the next step in our evolution. What he calls a leap of consciousness. Not a leap of faith, but a leap of consciousness, which will then lead to an era of reconversion, where we match up our ancient wisdom with our modern technology and we become advanced human beings. And then it'll not be unusual for us to use telepathy or talk to aliens, or and it'll be a much brighter future than what we have right now. I'm very optimistic about this. I know, I'm guardedly optimistic, because I know that's going to be a lot of bumps in the road until we get there. But anyway, that's the message I'm getting from him. And in terms of his predictions, he's always very careful about when he tells me what he thinks is going to happen. He says predictions can be wrong, but preparations are never wrong. So let me say this could happen, so you need to be prepared. So like a year before COVID, he told me that a series of calamities would occur where millions of people would die around the world. Well, of course, that's what happened, a series of calamities. You had the actual virus itself, and then you had the economic problems and shortages and all the things that happened, and the bickering and the political turmoil, all that stuff. in September of 2020, he told me that there would be a pocket revolution in the United States, a pocket revolution, which is, I'd never heard that term before. And then he said there would be an insurrection. That was September of 2020. Of course, January 6th, what has popularly been known as the insurrection took place in Washington, D.C. So he told me about this, so I was prepared for it. And just to kind of share with you, you and your listeners, the latest thing he's told me is around, the end of June, there's going to be what he calls a massive disruption in our everyday lives. Now, when I press him for details, he always says, "Now, this is not a prediction. This is just prepare for it, the eventuality." And what my mind went to automatically are these, malevolent actors, these hackers that are probing, like different infrastructure elements, like the electrical grid or the gas pipeline or whatever. These hackers, some of them are interested in money, some are bad state actor funded, directed. So that seems likely to me that this could be a major disruption, which would touch all of us. And so in preparation, what when I talk to people, I just say it's never bad to be prepared. Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the motto is be prepared, right? So, just basic preparations for that kind of eventuality is never a bad idea. You don't have to be an out-and-out prepper survivalist. You could just make basic preparations and be ready for what can come down the road. You can't be Pollyannish and you can't be paranoid. You got to be somewhere in between and just be prepared. So this is the kind of stuff that he helps me with. And he helps me understand how everything comes together, how there are some alien groups that are friendly, like himself, and there are others that are kind of neutral, and there are some that are not that friendly and actually like to cause some problems. And they find human hosts who are more than willing to, kind of follow along with that consternation kind of model. So he said it's a constant struggle over the resources of the earth, which they're obviously very interested in. And so anyway, this is the kind of stuff I get from him. Now, I've had people tell me, are you sure you're, maybe it's are you talking to a demon? It sounds like he's deceiving you. He's a demonic. And I said, think about it this way. Would a demon tell me to always keep love in my heart and operate from a position of love? That sounds like not something a demon would say. That sounds like the opposite of what a demon would say. He's not telling me to do terrible things or whatever. He's telling me to keep love in my heart and operate from a position of love, which, by the way, is a struggle. It's a struggle for all of us to do that. It sounds very easy, but, you get angry and you think, oh, man. And then you think, well, let me try to look at it from their perspective. And let me see if I can understand how I can compromise or cooperate. And that's really how we can get out of these situations, is by following that very simple advice. So anyway, that's kind of a long story short about my contact with Ansar. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention in the book I talk about, in fact, the foreword to the book is written by a friend of mine, Lucy, who is the only other person who's seen Ansar. And it was at a CERO meeting, the Close Encounter Resource Organization meeting in Huntington Beach. And I told Ansar when I went to the meeting, I said, would you come along with me? I want to see if anybody else can see you. And he has kind of a good sense of humor. So, okay, yeah. And he came with me, and I didn't tell anybody in the group what was going on until the end of the meeting. And I said, did anybody see anybody with me? And because it was a CERO meeting, everybody understood it wasn't like an actual person sitting next to me, but,
Right.
something else. And one lady said, yeah, who's the big dude behind you? And Ansar is big. He's tall. He's very tall. She said, who's the big native dude standing behind you? And she's a shaman in the Native American tradition. So anyway, I said, well, that's Anzar. That's the guy. That's my guy that I've been talking to. And she goes, what was the name? And I said, Anzar. And she like her jaw dropped and she said, I got to show you something. So she took out her purse, took out her driver's license. She lived on the name of her street where she lived was Via de Anzar, the way to Anzar.
Wow.
And that was pretty shocking. And it was confirmation. She saw him. She lived on a street called the way to Anzar. She's the only other person that saw him. She had this feeling that it was a good thing, that I'm connected to him and that there was some kind of integration going on. So anyway, that's long story short with Anzar.
Let's get to a couple questions. Manuel, your former student in 2015,
cool.
is asking, Dr. Solheim, do you know anything about Lockheed Martin and Edwards Air Force Base, UFOs, and abductions?
Well, I'm not an expert on that particular area, although I know I have a physicist friend who lives up in that area, and he is very well connected to this, and I'd run everything by him. He's kind of my science connection, and I know that there's things that they, not only there, but at other places like Groom Lake or, S4, at Area 51 and many other places, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where my son is stationed in Ohio, that they have, probably some alien technology or things that they have been testing, but they don't, it's too sophisticated for them to understand. And they're taking the wrong, according to Anzar, they're looking at it the wrong way. They're looking at it like we can turn it into a weapon. We can weaponize it. They won't be able to do that. They won't be able to weaponize it. I don't care if it's us or the Russians or the Chinese or Iranians or whoever. They're not going to be able to weaponize this because that's not what this technology is for. So anyway, I do know a little bit about that area, although I'm not an expert at that, Edwards Air Force Base in particular.
All right. Eugene is asking, getting back to Anzar for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
What has he told you about the future?
Well, in general, he gives me these warnings about like June 30th. He said within 2 or 3 weeks, so it's always a general thing because he said there's a lot of variables. We do have free will as well, and a lot of things can happen between now and then. But in general, he told me that there's going to be some major disruptions that will impact all of us. In the distant future, he said that he calls it a leap of consciousness, that our entire part of this whole why people are talking about UFOs and aliens so much and why people are more interested in the paranormal is because we are ready for this leap of consciousness, this next step higher in our evolution. And so that he says that's what's happening. Now, he also says it's going to be a rough go for people because there's some people that are going to fall off either side and they're not going to buy into it. And it's going to be a very difficult transition for them. But our job, people like your very intelligent listeners, yourself, are going to help guide people through that and realize, okay, I know this is freaky. It sounds pretty weird and bizarre, but let's try to understand it. Let's, as Anzar says, your job is to remain calm and cool and collected and just help people in the transition. So that's what I know about the future. I do think it's eventually going to be a very good thing, but we're going to go through some dark times before it gets there. So we have to be prepared and we have to be, ready to deal with that.
All right, let's get to another question here. This one comes from Casual Conversation. What kind of preparations do you recommend?
I'll tell you what I've done. Okay, we have extra food, dried goods that doesn't expire or it can last for a long time. We have extra water. We have extra medicine. My wife and I both have medications, so we have extra medicine. We have a generator. And it's very important for people that require electricity. My wife uses a breathing machine. She has very severe asthma, so it's important that we have a generator. So those kind of basic things are very important. Having some kind of communication system, a way to, if cell phones go down, do you have, walkie talkies, things like that you can connect to your loved ones? Is there an emergency plan? First aid kits, all the basic kind of stuff like that. Which, because I live in Southern California, we live in an earthquake zone, so we should have that stuff anyway. So, this is not extraordinarily different from what people should have in their emergency preparedness kits anyway. Not everybody can afford a generator, but if you can, I think it's important to have that in case the electricity goes out and you require it.
Okay, so in preparation for anything poor and ill-advised that does happen, I'm curious, as we got about 2 minutes to go here before we go to break at the top of the hour, are you preparing for what happens come June 25th? Is that one of the things you're
well, that's part
for?
of it. He did tell me that's part of it. That part of the disruption is going to be based on the report won't be that startling to people who, like your listeners. They're going to, the government is, I think what the government's basically going to say is that these are real. These UAVs, these UFOs are real. We don't know what they are, and we're not saying they're aliens, but they're not ours, and we don't think they're our adversaries either. So really, what they're saying is they're extraterrestrial, but they're not saying that. They're not saying it outright, but basically that's what it is, and that's going to cause people to freak out. It's going to cause people to freak out. The people that are not prepared to hear that. Now, the difficulty with this, and our government has already been, and I've talked to people in the intelligence community and tied into government bodies. This is being leaked already. The civilian version of the report is already being leaked, and the reason they're doing that is to try to tamp down any hysteria, to try to take the air out of the tires a little bit, so people don't freak out as much. Saying, "Hey, this is what it's going to say," but we're not saying they're aliens. But we don't know what they are, but they're real. It's not made up. It's not a hypersonic weather balloon or a swamp gas from Venus or whatever, reflections from Venus. These really, we don't know what they are. They're in our airspace. They're around our military assets. And it's something of great concern. And that's basically, I think, what it's going to say. Now, that's the civilian version, the released version, the redacted version. What the actual members, the internal version that's unredacted is probably going to go further.
Well, let's talk about that more when we get back from the break, because June 25th is right around the corner. It's at the same time when you're going to be at Contact in the Desert. Yep. How lucky are we to be a part of that same weekend?
Very curious.
Absolutely. Bruce Olav Solheim, Ph.D. We got him for another 30 minutes. Then we're going to join Vancouver and The Shift, The Newswire, The Thought of the Dave, all in Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio next. All right, we're clear?
All righty.
I'll be right back, okay, my friend?
Yeah. I'm going to walk around a little bit too.
Sure. Not a problem.
All right.
Be right back, people. Oh.
another minute. We're almost done. We'll be done with it. Where's Kelly?
Celebrities. Just there right there.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Just up the street.
Oh.
It's a really good one.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay. You're done at 11:30?
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice in here.
Yeah. It is.
All right, my friend. Hey, Lamb Chops. Good to see you. Appreciate that. Bigfoot Rob, nice to have you here. And let's see if I'm missing anybody else that's come in late. No, I'm caught up. There you go. Hey, B. Hoff, how you doing? Welcome. All right, Dr. Bruce, when we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, when I say goodnight to you on the air, just hold off until we get to the commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say a proper goodnight to you during the break.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Joe, you've got pickles, buddy. Yes, you've got pickles. And Chris Martin, good to have you here. At least you're not singing Coldplay tonight. Thank you. And let's see here. We're about 18 seconds away. Thank you, Bigfoot Rob, BPXM, Ozzy Steve, Madison, Cedric, Emily, Jason ×2, and Lori for the amazing super chats. We really do appreciate all the love and support on this show. Here we go, everyone, with hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate each and every one of you tuning us on in, especially those listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? You got one chancey. One chancey is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce a good friend of this show, a brand new friend, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. BruceOlavSolheim.com is his website. So I want to make sure that you check that on out. You can find his books there. And we're talking paranormal, supernatural, UFOs, everything all night long. And of course, coming up in just a couple of weeks, less than that actually, we have Contact in the Desert, where Bruce will be speaking, talking about his relationship with an alien called Anzar. And he will be speaking once again at Contact in the Desert. It's a virtual conference this year, which you can find at contactinthedesert.com. Dr. Bruce, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I'm hanging in there. So
doing well.
Yeah,
You're
although
well.
I'm usually asleep by now. I think my energy level is staying up there. Waiting
Good.
for I hope another moth doesn't appear, but
Oh, that
we
moth
can only
was
hope.
huge. It was huge.
It was. I'm sure it got picked up on radar, NORAD or something.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
pretty sure.
Absolutely. Now, right before the break, we started talking a little bit about what's coming June 25th.
Mhm.
And that obviously is when the Pentagon is going to release some, not all, of those UFO files. In that report, what do you want to see out? What's your dream?
Well, my dream would be that, and this is really, I guess, pie in the sky too much to expect, but that not only tell people that UAVs, as they call them, unidentified aerial vehicles, or UFOs, as we call them, most of us, not only are they real, they've been here for quite a while. We've known about it for 70 years or so. So it's been here for a long time. And they're not ours. It's not our advanced technology. It's not the technology of our adversaries. And we believe it to be extraterrestrial in origin. I wish they would just come and say that, which most everybody who's in tune with all this stuff already knows this. They already, the experiencers, those that follow the ufology, those that go to Contact in the Desert, they already know these things already. But it would be nice for them to just come clean. That probably ain't going to happen. It's probably going to be very guarded because there is this idea that it's a defense or military problem rather than a spiritual opportunity for all of us. And that's what they just don't quite get. And but there's a lot of interest in the government in experiencers, like our mutual friend Terry Lovelace. He has been plagued by people, unidentified people, who have been monitoring him in very odd ways since his book came out. And now what's unique about him, of course, is that he was in the military when he was abducted, along with his friend. So it was a dual abduction. He was interrogated by the intelligence agencies and told to be quiet about it. And he had an actual implant that he has X-ray evidence of. I don't want to tell everything because I'm not sure what he's made public or not, everything, but there have been a lot of people in, I would say, the intelligence agencies who have been very interested in him revealing all this information. So I don't like to spread conspiratorial rumors or whatever. I know this to be true. I know that this is what is going on, and it's not just him. So I think that there's a fear. There's a great fear that somehow we're going to lose. This technology is going to slip through our grasp, and the Russians or the Chinese will get it or whatever. But if you really look at it, the people in China, the people in Russia, the people in Iran, the everyday people, the people in Canada, the people all around the world, we all want the same thing. We want peace and security and prosperity and a future for our children and grandchildren. That's what we all want. We all want the same thing. But there are some bad actors in positions of power who think that somehow they can take advantage of this and turn it into a military advantage or a strategic advantage. So the ideal would be that they just come clean and say, let's all learn together, and let's see that how this can help us and take this next step in our evolutionary development. But like I said, that's very optimistic. I don't think that's what's going to happen, at least not yet. Put it that way.
Has Anzar, in your communication with him, discussed with you what could come out of this report?
He just said that it'll be rather disappointing. That it's going to be, what did he say? He said it'll be less than you would like to see in it. And the fact that it's already leaking out, that it's, and I deliberately leaked, I think it's deliberately leaked, that it's not, I think it's to, well, see what's been happening before they started the deliberate leak. Every major news agency in the United States was having a story about UFOs, and they were just building it up. And all of a sudden, these leaks started to come out, and then it kind of died down a little bit. It did, like my friend in the intelligence community said, that it took the air out of the tires a little bit. So that's what they're hoping, that they don't want to sensationalize it. They don't want people to panic. And like I said, they're I think they're a little bit afraid of what this really is, because they don't know what it is. Even though they've been holding this secret, they still don't really know what's going on. And and I want to get to this. The term disclosure is a really not a really good word in this case. In fact, Anzar has told me he prefers the word revelation, because a disclosure means that somebody is disclosing information or the truth to you. They're disclosing it, right? A revelation is where you figure it out yourself. You feel it, you know it to be true. He said that's really the best way to look at this, is a revelation, which will lead to a leap of consciousness, which will lead to a new era of reconversion, which will be the next step in our evolution. So it's a revelation. It's a personal revelation. That's how people need to look at it. A disclosure is a very other-directed type thing. So for people who've been sitting around thinking, we just got to wait for the government to tell us the truth. The reality is we already know what the truth is. We already know. We sense it. People who are intuitive, they already know that they're here. They've been here for a very long time, the aliens, and that the UFOs are real, of course. So it's just taking that into your belief system and realizing, yes, this is real. You're not crazy. This is really happening. And I'm not, I think it's a step. The government's taking a good step, but here's the interesting thing. Have you heard anything about what the Chinese government is thinking about UFOs? Have you heard anything about what the Russians how they're reacting to this? It's been suspiciously silent, which is interesting.
China did recently come out in a news article and say they were starting their own UAP task force.
I did see that. Yes, they were taking it seriously. Yeah.
Because I think what a lot of people don't understand is we always look at this, and I'm saying this from a Canadian view. Mm-hmm. We always seem to look at this from an American point of view. We don't seem to care what's happening, in Canada or Mexico or Great Britain, Australia, mm-hmm. or down in South America. And we have to realize that this is something that is happening to all the world's militaries at the same time. Yep. It's not just happening here. It's not just happening in North America. It's happening in China right now. It's mm-hmm. happening in Russia as we speak. Yep. And we got to remember that if you go back to the days when the nuclear missile silos were being turned on and off, armed and then unarmed, the American government had to call the Russian government or the USSR government at that time and say, look, we have this happening. We have these strange UFOs over top. They've activated our missiles. We don't know if we can turn them off. We don't know if they're going to launch them. Mm-hmm. And Russia coincides with that, saying it's happening right here, right now as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to take and it could. Well, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said when he talked to Gorbachev, he many years, I don't know if it was in Reykjavik or in Geneva, wherever they were having the summit, said that if we could just realize that, if we realize that, the aliens are real, or that UFOs are real, maybe we can work together. That was the idea. He wanted to use that as a basis of understanding. He's not the only president that's talked about it either. I mean, there are others that have mentioned this stuff too. But his statement with Gorbachev comes to mind. And I guess I said that because today President Biden is meeting with President Putin. And I'm hoping that things don't go off the rails, that they'll find some kind of basic understanding of each other. And I'm hoping. I'm always trying to be optimistic, but I realize that there's other forces at work as well, both from our side and their side, and others as well. But you're right. Now this is a worldwide phenomena. It doesn't belong just to the United States or any other country, whether it's Canada or, like you said, even in little Norway, they have UFO experiences up there too. So, which I have some friends up there who are active in that community, the UFO community in Norway. So this is a worldwide phenomena.
It very much is. And my question is, from a scholarly standpoint, one of the biggest concerns that I have had looking towards this, and I think the government is cognizant with this fact too, is how are people going to react?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to react to learning that A, we are not alone, B, that even though the government has been talking and keeping UFOs, UAP, whatever you want to call them, away from extraterrestrials, aliens, interdimensionals, whatever you want to call them. All right. How do we know that this is something that is going to be a positive run for us? How do we know that people aren't going to react the way they have during COVID with hoarding toilet paper, hoarding food, hoarding gasoline, whatever it may be? That is my concern with it all, because this is a subject that has the ability to affect everyone on this planet.
Yep.
Everyone. It's going to affect the religious people, and we don't know how they're going to react to the fact that, biblically speaking, mostly everything that comes from the sky is demonic.
Mm-hmm.
We have to worry about, the markets. How are they going to crash, or is, outside of weaponry, because people are going to want to protect themselves, how are the rest of the markets going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, food, what happens with food? Because people, when in panic, usually start hoarding food.
Yep. And basic supplies. Yeah, I think that is a big concern. And that's why Anzar keeps telling me, the mission is to stay calm and stay focused and help people in this transition. And but that being said, people are still they're still going to panic once they realize that this isn't just made up. This is not a Hollywood thing or something. This is not made up. Some people are going to fall off in one direction or another, and maybe not act rationally. But the other thing that Anzar always tells me, he tells me to, when we end our conversations, he reminds me to be the light. That's the term he's given me, be the light. Now, I thought it kind of like, maybe in my Lutheran Sunday school days, the light of God or whatever, and, the light of truth or whatever. But it's much more literal than that. In the research I did for the book, the first half of the book is a lot of research, a lot of end notes and footnotes. I learned that our DNA emits photons, emits light. And some scientists believe, and there's a Russian scientist actually that believes that is how telepathy works and how telekinesis works. That our very DNA, what we are inside, emits light. So when Anzar tells me to be the light, we actually are light beings. We produce light internally in our DNA. And that's how we are connected. That's how, in the quantum realm, how, like when my brother was in Vietnam and thought he was going to die, my mother woke up in the middle of the night in Seattle and heard his voice, him crying and calling for his mother. And she was panicked. And then we found out later that at that exact moment, he was fearing for his life and he was calling out to his mother. So how can we connect that? It's the entanglement, the quantum entanglement. And where that resides is within our own DNA. So being the light is actually what we're doing. We are light beings. And you hear people say, I'm a light worker. I'm working in the paranormal, working with healing. And that's actually what's going on. And it's fascinating to me how all this stuff is revealed one step at a time, peeling back the onion skin or whatever. And so I am optimistic, although I'm realistic as well, knowing that people will panic once they realize this, especially people who are very dogmatic in their thinking, that it's absolutely this way and all black and white. And they don't see that there is more to it. There's more to the reality that we see day to day. And as Gene told me, one of the first things he told me was, I asked him a bunch of questions, and he said, let me just answer all your questions with one answer. And I said, what is it? He says, it's all true. And I said, what's all true? He said, everything. It's all true. And when you think about that, it's like, well, wait a second. So, ghosts are real, UFOs are real, JFK was assassinated, whatever. He said, it's all true. It's all true. And that's a very frightening prospect when you think of that. But if you think of, that there are multi dimensions and, multiverse theory and the holographic universe, I think he's right. It is all true.
We have 4.5 minutes left with you tonight in a show that has flown on by. Tell us about your presentation and contact in the desk.
Yeah, I go over, I talk, the name of the presentation is We Are Messengers, how a former Fulbright professor came to channel an ancient alien mystic. So basically it's the story, a little bit longer version of the story I told about my contact with Anzar and everything he's told me, and connecting, the dots as much as I can. And in this interesting life that we're all leading right now at this very interesting time. So that's what I get into in that presentation, and I share a lot of the wisdom. I can give you a little hint. One other thing that Anzar told me was that I'm going to present in the presentation is that we know what's going to happen in the future because we manifest it. We have more power and authority than we're led to believe, that we can create our own future, that we know what's going to happen because we manifest it. And there's a lot of people, the power of positive thinking, all that kind of stuff. It's been said in different ways, but it's basically the same thing. And so that's what I'm gonna talk about, and also some humorous stuff. Like I'll just leave you with this humorous one. I was talking to Anzar, learning all this stuff and how he was the original contact here on Earth, and told me where he was from, and in the Orion system. In Rigel in Orion, as he said. And I went outside at night like I do every night, and I looked up at the stars and I go, I'm really starting to get it. I think I understand. And I heard his voice as I was standing outside looking at the stars, and he said, oh, you have no idea. You have a lot to learn.
Don't you hate that when they do that?
It was very humbling. It was, and that's good. It's good to be humbled because all of us have a piece of the puzzle, and we got to work together and share our puzzle pieces. So anyway, that's where we have it. So I'm learning stuff every single day, every time I go out on one of these spirit walks, every time I talk to wonderful people like yourself and talk and have this wonderful audience, I learn.
I like Pat Breeze's comment in the chat room. If we have the power to manifest, then when I was a kid, my Farrah Fawcett poster would have come alive. Just saying. Powerful comment there. For me, it was Heather Thomas. Heather Thomas. Had
Let me
every
see.
poster first.
Which poster did I have? It was Barbara Carrera. Barbara Carrera, I think. She was the poster I had. But in your mind, you did create that reality.
Did we?
I think
Did
so.
we? Because
Yeah.
it really didn't come true for me. But that's okay. I'm still living with faith and hope. My friend, we got about 90 seconds here. Do me a favor. Take the time to let everybody know where they can find your books, your website. Fill us in.
Yeah, sure. Well, my website kind of brings everything together. BruceOlavSolheim.com. Middle name spelled OLAV, last name SOLHEIM.com. BruceOlavSolheim.com. All my books, all the timeless books, Timeless, Deja Vu, Timeless Trinity, and Anzar the Progenitor are all available on Amazon in the US and also in Canada. And so that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you go to my website, you'll also see the plays that I've written and all the things that I'm up to. And I try to keep it updated quite a bit. So I'm also involved with online theater. I'm a playwright as well. I play music. I think we talked a little bit about that earlier. And so I'm doing a lot of different things. I have a lot of interests. Just put it that way. A lot of different interests. It keeps me busy. Keeps me out of trouble.
Well, you know what? For a first interview on Spaced Out Radio, this was a lot of fun. Very, very informative, very creative. What a pleasure to have you on the show. And I really look forward to doing this again with you, my friend.
That would be great. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
And I know you had fun. It's
Yes,
a little bit different here, and that's just the way we like it.
I love it.
All right. Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim, everyone. Yes, we really enjoyed tonight's show with him. Don't forget his website, Dr. Bruce, and that is BruceOlavSolheim.com. Find his books there. Coming up next, we're going to join Shane and the Shift. We're going to go right across Canada. Then we got the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great job, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, look at how awake I am. I mean, this is very unusual for me. So
we're glad you did.
You had great questions. Your audience had great questions, and you're a fun guy to have an interview with. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And take care of that fantastic hair and goatee combination.
I'll do my best. I've hung on to it so far. I'm 62, so I think I'll keep it for the duration.
We will talk soon, my friend.
All right.
You take care.
All right. You too, Dave. Thank you.
Good night. What a great guy. What a great guy. You know, there's nothing more that I like than having an unexpected show like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, the dude is like, great. You know what I'm saying? We lucked out tonight. We lucked out. Excuse me. Simon Wales, how are you? Welcome to our chat room. Alien Girl 111, always a pleasure to have you here. Glenn McEnroe, what's happening, man? Neil Jones, good to see you. I've tried her in the past. She's never really come through. Hey, boys.
Hey. Awesome. All right, so I got you on here. So, yeah, we'll be in at 36.
All right, sounds good. I got you on mute. There we go. There we go. D. Swagger. Hello. Excuse me. I'm tired. I wasn't feeling good today, earlier on today. Mm-hmm. Moth. Why wouldn't the moth go to the moth guitar? I cannot stop yawning. I'm tired. I know I shouldn't be saying that because I gotta stay entertained here, entertain you guys. But honestly, I'm tired. Third phase of moon. Third phase of moon. Third phase of moon. Third phase of moon. Hey, brothers, how you doing? Damn moth. It was huge. Could have taken my eye out. I had to trim up my beard again. Starting to get a little scruffy. Don't like it. I got 2 small lamps upstairs. I forget what they are. They both sound completely different. I got to figure out how the settings on them. Be nice, Finn. Be nice. Where'd my other guitar pick go? That's what I noticed now. Now all of a sudden I'm like finding like guitar picks all over the place, and I'm always like practicing strumming now. No, I get sick of it like this. I don't want to grow another beard yet, not for a while. Come September, it may be game on. It may be game on. Let's see here. A big thank you to Bigfoot Rob, VPXM, Aussie Steve, Madison, Cedric, the gorgeous Emily Bigelow, Jason ×2, and Lori for the great super chats. Really do appreciate it. We're going to get going here in a matter of seconds. And then we're going to run on through. And yeah, we'll join up in Vancouver. I've been totally power chording it lately, terrible times. Totally power chording it. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Hey, it's been a month. We're going to join up with Shane in the shift. We're going right across Canada to talk all things weird and strange as we do every month. Shane, my man, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. How are you, Dave?
I am doing great. I'm ready for June 25th. It's like Christmas in UFO land. And I'm telling you, man, I'm expecting to get a nice pair of socks instead of the hot rod car that I want.
So tell everybody who doesn't know what 6 months ago was promised to all of your UFO, UFO lovers out there.
Oh, I know you love this topic. I totally know you do. Okay, so right before President Trump signed in his final budget, Senator Mark Rubio, who is the head of the U.S. Intelligence Committee, actually helped get a caveat inside of their COVID budget, which would see funding go to a UAP task force, and that the Pentagon would have to release its files on what they know about unidentified aerial phenomena. Well, guess what? 6 months is right around the corner on June 25th. And now all of us who deal in this type of luxury woo, as we like to call it, we are waiting on bated breath to be disappointed by what will likely come out and not come out from the Pentagon on Friday the 25th.
You get the feeling that that's going to be one big piece of paper with an awful lot of blacked out text.
Yes, absolutely. It is going to be more secretive than a man who hides a Plenty of Fish account from his wife. That's how secretive it's going to be.
All right, so there's got to be speculation because that's what the UFO folks do best. What comes of this? Are you truly waiting to be disappointed here?
I am really actually waiting. And you know what? Look, this is what it comes down to. And I've talked to a lot of people over the last few weeks about this, getting real serious about this topic. The United States military and government has secrets that they do not want us to know. And this opens up a bunch of conspiracy theories that we'll never know of, whether it's Roswell, what happened at Phoenix on what was the date? March 13th, 1997, when over 60,000 people for over 2 hours witnessed UFOs flying over what is now known as the Phoenix Lights. There's some big things that the government is holding back. All right, just today, give you an example. Today, there was a report coming out of Hawaii where F-22 fighter jets were scrambled. A bunch of them were, and nobody knows why. Could it be UFOs? Because I don't think it's the Japanese returning, pun intended. All right. What would cause them to send up a fleet of F-22 Raptors to intercept something if it's nothing and they're not reporting on it? You know, we're having sightings. The military is having sightings. The public is having sightings. But what are the declassified notes that we are going to get? And unfortunately, we're probably going to see more grainy UFO videos, more grainy gifs of blobs in the sky. We're not going to get that clear photo of a black triangle coming out of the ocean. We're not going to get that clear photo of a Tic Tac that we all want to see, that these state-of-the-art jet fighters with their cameras are able to take. We're not going to know about alien abductions. We're not even going to know about aliens. In fact, now you got me all sour over this.
What would you hope for, Dave? Would you hope for, hey, this is Bob. He's from another universe. Like, what would be ideal here? I mean, is it that concrete evidence that something's coming or has come?
I think the safe bet is right now, I think there is a very strong argument within the Pentagon and within the White House that bringing aliens into the entire subject line, Shane, is going to be very, very dangerous for the public. Look how we have acted towards each other through COVID-19. We were ripping toilet paper out of people's hands in the grocery store. We were stealing milk from single parents who just wanted to have some milk for their child. We were hoarding gasoline. We were mean to each other. We're still mean to each other. And if that's the way we're going to act during a world pandemic, could you imagine how we're going to act when we find out that there's beings from another planet potentially visiting Earth? It's going to send us into complete hysteria, in my opinion. Now, there are people who are ready for it. Okay, I mean, old Davey here, he likes his aliens. He would like some of them aliens. But the reality is, the majority of people on this planet, and if we focus on Canada and the United States, we're not ready. We are not ready for any sort of imminent contact. And that is why they are waiting on that. Introduce the UFOs. Okay, I think we will find out a little bit more with clarity that it is not going to be Russia. It is not going to be China. I think they're going to be leaning more towards we do not know where this technology is coming from. That also begs another question, Shane. That technology, if it's not from here, where is it from? There's a few possibilities. It could be something that is interdimensional, coming from a different timeline that has learned to overlap with ours. It could be coming from a society within inner Earth that we do not know about. It could have been here since the time of Atlantis. We don't know. It could be from outer space, which we perceive as extraterrestrial. Or how about this one? And I know this is being bandied about too. What if it's time travelers from the future?
There's some interesting stories that sort of touch on a couple of those pieces. That if we really had found aliens, like if that's what this is, UFOs, whether they're robotic or whether it's actually like an alien pilot, we wouldn't recognize it because it would be so foreign or alien to us, and that it's incredibly, I don't know, egotistical of humans to think that we would recognize a Tic Tac as a spaceship because we're like, hey, it flies faster than ours, therefore it's a thing. So is that like, do you find that that's the case where people really, we're just so blinded by our own ego in this to think that we would actually recognize an alien if we saw it?
I think we would freak out the way we freak out when we have moths flying into our hair, a mouse on the ground, a spider, we see a snake. I think we're going to freak out. And that's being perfectly honest. And when we don't like something, it's human nature to get very violent with it. Okay. We like to, if we see a spider crawling around our kitchen on the floor, what do? We step on it, or we grab some paper towel and squish it in our hands until we can hear it crack. We do that kind of thing. If we see a mouse in our house, we panic. We go buy violent traps in order to try and trap it, kill it. We're a violent species. I hate to sound negative like that, but truly we are. And we have to realize that if we see extraterrestrials walking around like in the movie Signs, maybe not as violent as those in the movie Signs, but nonetheless, if we see that, we're going to do something about it. We're going to attack. We're going to bring out the guns. We're going to bring out the bows and arrows. We are going to bring out, grandma's shoe that she was very accurate with hitting us with when we were a child. Okay. We're going to be accurate with those. And it is something, Shane, that we have to start thinking as reality, because if it does come out on June 25th, that these craft are not ours or not of any adversaries on this planet, where are they coming from? That's phase 2. Eventually, it leads to phase 3, which is extraterrestrial contact. We have to start waking up that this is no longer a conspiracy theory. This is no longer a story that is going to go away. We have to remember that this is a new paradigm shift in our reality, and that many of us are probably going to live to see the day when extraterrestrials introduce themselves to us on this planet.
Are we better off for that, Dave? Because the conversation has become somewhat legitimized. I mean, the old conversation 20 years ago was the only people who saw UFOs had no teeth and drove a pickup truck. I'm being jestful with the stereotype that was attached to it. But it really was a stereotype. Now it's been somewhat legitimized when you have the government saying 6 months from now, we're going to release this. Has it moved the conversation truly forward, even if no information comes out from it?
Yes, it has. Okay. And I'm going to use you as an example here, because when you and I first started talking a year ago, Shane, you were highly skeptical on whether or not any of this is true. Now, when we talk, you're very open to the fact that there is something out there because we're learning that information. And this is something that is opening up right across North America. Not so much yet here in Canada. Yes, our media outlets are starting to cover this story. Are they doing a good job? I would give them about a 2 out of a 10. When you have somebody like Chris Mellon on CTV for 14 and a half minutes, and you don't ask him as a Canadian reporter, what is Canada's role in ufology? Is this happening in Canada? Does the Prime Minister or the Canadian military have this happen to them? That's a problem. The story is all over in the United States, but however, we are not turning that point up in Canada to figure out whether or not this story is happening here, which it is.
Is that because the hot spots in Canada or seem to be very localized where things happen? Or is that because Canada is just so big and spread out, the density, we just don't notice it?
Our government has always had a policy of if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. For instance, if the public in Canada truly knew back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, going back to the 50s, when the UN used to call us up for peacekeeping missions, if they knew how badass our soldiers were and how many firefights our soldiers actually got in and were put in harm's way, our Canadian people would go crazy because we don't like doing that. We're there to peacekeep. We're not there to fire guns. We would go crazy. And there would be reports and government inquiries about this. We don't hear about it. Okay? I can tell you right now that there was a major meeting between, and I got to be careful here because I can't give out names yet, but there was a major meeting between a Canadian official in Washington, D.C. on this subject, and his job was, from what I am hearing from very, very reliable sources, his job was to take that information and replace it, or pardon me, not replace it, I apologize, and bring that home to Canada to debrief Canadian members of the government. So that would mean Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, has been debriefed on this, putting 2 and 2 together. Why hasn't he talked about it? His best friend, Barack Obama, down in the U.S., is talking about it. Other presidents are talking about it. Current president is starting to talk about it. His press secretary is talking about it. Why hasn't the Canadian Prime Minister opened up and said, we're talking about it?
I don't know if you saw Men in Black International, but there's a little tiny alien guy that befriends the main characters, and he fits in his pocket, and he becomes like their little buddy.
Yes.
He's like a pawn, right, from a chessboard. If aliens were a real thing, I would want them to be that little and that cute and that friendly that they could just hang out with us. I hope that's the case. Because I think that, to me, makes somehow all of this feel better.
It does, but I mean, you know what? We can't go in scared. We can't go in scared to this topic. And, you know, the funny part about it is with everything, and when it kind of puts a smile on my face, Shade, like I said a few moments ago, like when you and I first started talking about this subject, you were very much on the skeptical side of things. And so were your audience a little bit. And now we see what's going on. I hear from them. I hear from them on Twitter. I hear from you. The audience questions that you pass on to me. I mean, people are starting to pay attention. That's key number one. We need people to pay attention. We need people to throw the stereotypes out and understand that this is coming. It is happening. And soon we need to find out, as Canadian citizens, what the role is of Canada in ufology, just as much as my American listeners need to know, and your American listeners as well, need to know what is the role of their government when it comes to UFOs and potential ET contact.
Well, we're a little over a week away. Dave Scott, spacedoutradio.com. I do look forward for the update after this is all done to get you back in the program and give us the insight and the inside scoop here of that data that is released. Thanks so much, Dave. Great to hear your voice, brother.
It is always a pleasure to be on with you, Shane. Thank you so much for your time. All right, let's do this thing, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the protection. So Captain Shirk said to me, I have to read this story. So I'm going to, all right, because if you're like me or Captain Shirk, you get eaten alive at this time of year with all them damn mosquitoes out there. So, how to kill mosquitoes. If you want to try this in your backyard, on your patio, at the cabin, wherever, apparently this works. All right? This is a Facebook post she sent me from a person named Jeremiah. I was at a deck party a while back, and the bugs were having a ball biting everyone. A man at the party sprayed the lawn and deck floor with Listerine, and the little demons disappeared. The next year, I filled a 4-ounce spray bottle and used it around my seat. Whenever I saw mosquitoes, voila, worked just as well. So apparently, mosquitoes do not like fresh breath, fresh air, or anything to do with it. So if you got children, you got yourself or the elderly around, and you don't want any of them mosquitoes biting you, go buy a few bottles of Listerine, put them in a spray bottle, and spray the little bastards with some nice, fresh breath. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What's a weird question on your mind that you have no answer to? Ozzy, sister. What came first, the aliens or organized religion? Lynn Wallington, ascots. Why? Dirty Filth, how to turn a boiled egg back into a raw egg. Julien, what will happen when we die? Rex, dozens of rabbit holes in a field just spontaneously appeared. Screaming Dean, tacos or burritos. Evil Carl, in outer space, it's very large, but how far does it go? Is it like a cassette tape? Once you hit the end, it repeats back to the beginning of the galaxy and how the planets and Earth was made? Sally, why do I have to dream about somebody I haven't seen or thought about in several decades? They then either see them in the next day or two out in the wild or find out they have died. Greg, who is behind the proliferation of breakfast for dinner? Who benefits from this chaos? That's why nobody should eat breakfast for dinner. Free Spirit Wolf, why did someone think it was a good idea to seed Earth with humanity? Well, you wouldn't be alive if that was the case. Jackie, why is it that so many in my UFO family question the government when it comes to UFOs, but not when it comes to other projects or propaganda? Strafe, if you don't eat your dinner, you won't get any pudding. Murray, does water ripple when ducks fart? Good question. Andra, do UAP events and ET encounters so often take place where children dwell because kids have smaller bodies, larger heads, and are close to the size of ETs? UFO Titan, I heard someone say before, adult humans equal danger, children humans equal not danger. The same way we would feel different about approaching a group of grown gorillas versus a group of baby gorillas. Joni, pardon me. Why don't more people talk about Hi Brazil? Mickle in a pickle. As I stir my coffee cup with a spoon, why does the noise change? Curious one. This is why I follow you, Dave, for the hard questions. Yes, one more, 13 ballads. If you really dig deep into the moon's surface, is it made of Swiss cheese, Swiss cheese mining, the reason we're heading back to the moon? How much Swiss cheese can a Dragon capsule carry back to Earth? We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight for playing around with a great show we call Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us on in, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That was a good show. That was a good show. That was fun. Oh, there we go. Put those there. Thank you, Brutus, for that amazing super chat. Oh, Behoff, I don't even have an amplifier here, and my ripping it right now is not very good. And I got to edit. Hey, Chad Smith. What's happening, man? In case anybody is wondering, Joe Monk has pickles, everyone. Joe Monk has pickles. Just saying. Oh, darn it. I hit the wrong one here. Hey, Skip to Maloo. What's happening? Silent Edge. What's happening? You know what? Pastrami and Swiss cheese is a great sandwich. Fantastic sandwich. Chad's making bolts at the bolt factory. I'm going to go get a new tattoo. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll go get a new tattoo. Get a Pickle Rick tattoo. No. No, 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 no. I think almost done. just gonna wait for that. Which guitar did you want to see? Let me see this one. There you go. This is my daughter's. This is my daughter's. Bumblefoot tattoo would be kind of cool. Power chord. That sounds like shit. I know, I gotta clean my guitars. Lunar Sparkles plays a mean bass, by the way. A mean bass. Let's all go get tattooed. By the way, just so you all know, looks like the Canadian border is going to be opening within the next 3 to 4 weeks. Just saying. You know what happens when the Canadian border opens, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I missed that one. Just remember, shit is going to happen when that happens. So you're either going to have to start prepping. Just saying. Because when I make the call, all of you people who said that you were going to come party with me, absolutely better, because it would really suck being there all alone. Not going to lie. Hey, data derivations. Good to see you. I'm going to give you guys lots of notice, a couple months. So it's not going to be like, okay, borders open and next week we're going. It's not going to be like that at all. Mama Susan says she's not going because she doesn't want Fap and Vinny to hit on her. It's terrible. Mama Susan's never been to Vegas. It's not going to be a mini conference. It's just going to be a hangout, get-together session for all of our listeners over a couple of days. Nothing really is planned. If you show up, you may get some Spaced Out Radio swag for free. Even Joe and Joe's Bane are going to be there. No, he will not. My other booking guys will be there. I know Dirty Filth is going to be there. I don't know about the gorgeous and talented Emily Bigelow. I do believe Spookles the cat may be there. I'm going to be there. Oob to Joe's Maine is going to be there. Vinny and Fabster said that they're coming. Well, you don't have to live around him. Just come, Mama Susan. You're allowed. Doesn't matter. Plus, you never know who's going to show up as guests. I believe Varla Ventura is going to come. We may sneak down Geraldina Roscoe. I know Ben and Joe from UFO Garage are going to show up because they're really badass guys that way. Amy Vegas O is going to be there. I know we have a lot of listeners in there that are planning on it. Jennifer P. said she's going to come. Heather McIntyre. B. Hoff, that's awesome, man. Anthony Foster can come party with us. But I'm going to need some commit. Once we set the date, I'm going to need some commitments if you're actually coming, because I want to make sure that I have enough swag for everybody to give away, because I want to make sure that anybody who joins us there gets some sort of giveaway and present from us. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I think Grandma Rose is actually going to come too. Damn it. Really? Well, how does one know? You just kind of get the feeling, dude. Kind of get the feeling that it's happened. Let me go check, Daryl. Hold on. Hold on. Maggie Rose, host of the Concord Radio here, trying to reach out to you. Can you find her private? She would like to share someone. She is here in chat if you can. Okay. Hi, Maggie Rose. Oh, she left the chat room. Hey, Flipperino. Flipperino in the... Yeah. There it is. Hey, good night, Julie K. That's what I like. This one's fun. It doesn't have much life left in it, but it's still fun. Oh, that sounds terrible. Have a good morning there, Chris Mo in Austria. There you go, Clam. Which UFO ET experience? That sounds terrible. Hey, I've only had 2 lessons. I'm pretty happy with my progress so far. Another couple months, I should be improved. Should be. I think I will be. Two seconds here. One string sounds out. Hey, Mark Miller, what's happening? What's happening in Montana? Got any good Bigfoot stories? Hey, third phase, how you guys doing? You guys got a show after this? Are you waiting to go live on your channel? I haven't had a chance to check tonight. See you, Dada. See you, Silent Edge. I've been up since 7:25 this morning. Yeah. I am learning the EADGBE. Okay, Paul Holland. By the way, Paul Holland, how's my blue Les Paul that you have? One sec here, guys. Very true, Paul Holland. That's deep words. Deep words right there. This makes me want to have those moments where we look at Paul Holland's guitar collection. Where are they? Where's that photo? Where are they, Paul Holland? I'm searching for them. You didn't take down the blue one, did you? No, there it is. There's Paul Holland's babies right there. Hold on, I'll show all of them to you. Courtesy of Paul Holland's Facebook page. There they are. Look at those babies right there. That blue one right here, that's my dream Les Paul. My dream Les Paul right there. I love that guitar. Yeah, Paul Holland has quite the collection. I love these. Oh, that's his daughter getting married. Hold on. Let's find there. There's a few others. Well, let me see where else he's got his collection here, because I don't want to show off a bunch of his personal stuff. There's the Gretsch collection. What is this? Oh, that's a Kiesel. Is that a Kiesel? Where's the other ones here? Oh, so if we go here, we can see Paul Holland playing the guitars. Look at that. Nice Fender Stratocaster right there. Tobacco. Burst. Then I'm playing the old Rickenbacker there. Looking like an Aussie Tom Petty right there. There he is doing his best Slash impersonation. Look at that beauty. That looks difficult to play. Look at that. You're looking good, Paul Holland. Look at back in the day. Look at Paul Holland's hair. Look how gorgeous those locks were. Bring that back. Bring that shit back. All right, that's enough. That's enough right there. Paul, sorry, I missed your comment. Is that a Kiesel right here? Is that what that is? All right. Kendall. Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, everyone, I got to say goodnight to all of you because I got to go to bed. Paul Holland, leave me Elia in your will if you don't mind. I don't care if I got to wait another 30 years. I'm okay with that. 30 years, I'll be 78. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll just go buy my own. Let's see here. Close that off. I want to say a big thank you to Brutus, to Bigfoot Rob, VPXM, Ozzy Steve, Madison, Cedric, Emily, Jason ×2, and Lori for the super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. Thank you to all the veterans who tuned us on in tonight and all of the regulars in the chat rooms. You know who you are. Much love to each and every one of you. Tomorrow night on the show, Merle. Merle is here. He may have to work, but our guest is going to be Varla Ventura. Varla is coming back home to Spaced Out Radio. So we're going to have some fun with Varla and maybe Merle if he can get his shift changed at work. We'll talk to you all tomorrow night. Thank you. Much love. Good night, everyone. I'm tired. I'm going to bed.